all the things.
I pressed it.
Wow. That's so cool.
We're live. Hello,
Yes.
everybody. And now no one will know what the thing was that Brian said was so cool because I
Do
pressed
you want to
record
know
too
what it
late.
was?
I assumed you were just doing a bit.
It was just that you pushed the button.
Oh, okay. Well, I
It was
guess
kind of, and it was, yeah, a bit of a bit.
it is kind of cool if you think about it.
A
We
little
used to like
bitty.
struggle to figure out how we're going to live stream these shows, remember?
Oh,
We had all these different services we
StreamYard,
were
this,
using.
that.
Things weren't working that well. There was like
Nothing ever
lag.
worked.
YouTube, man. It's very good.
Intolerable.
Zoom plus YouTube is like what perfect. Not that
Mwah.
this isn't a paid ad, but it just works so well.
We don't do paid. Well, actually, whatever happened? Did you log? Did
We
you
didn't
figure
we
out
that's
what?
not finalized yet. He's gonna look into it and get back to us.
Oh, okay. That was
We have to
pretty
think about
nice.
it. We did
Yeah.
we responded with an offer that wasn't what he offered, so he's thinking about it.
Oh, okay. I
You
don't
know how it
want to play
goes.
hardball or anything.
The negotiation.
I'm
We're
not
playing
about like
hardball.
I don't. Yeah, well, now you're playing hardball because I'm happy to play
I just
softball.
asked you what you want to
I
do. I
know, and
said, "Are you good with this?" And you said a new thing, so I
I
said,
know
"I'll
I
pass it
was the
along."
problem. Now I don't
You're
want to
playing
be the
hardball.
problem anymore.
It's not a problem to me. I like playing hardball.
You do. You're
I
good
used to
at
play
see.
hardball as a kid.
Uh, Hi, Roman, and all the chatters. Thanks for being here.
All right, let's start
You
the
are
show.
truly the greatest. Oh,
The
and
the live
Trev is
show
here.
people. Yeah. Oh, Chef nice. Trev. Oh, he's gonna keep us accountable. Is that like the joke? Now we'll be like corny, like, oh, Trev is here. Can't now can't.
Um,
Gotta watch what I say. All right. So
Stars in the building.
let's start. Okay.
Yeah. And we're still gonna say the little thing about the ads.
Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah. You'll say it as part of your intro.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah! Yes! Welcome everybody to another episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest running fantasy hockey podcast in the world, hosted by two guys who are going to challenge themselves today to talk about every single team in the NHL in under 2 hours. I think we can do it. We're going to use a timer. It's going to be super professional this time. No way we're going over. I'm your host, Elon Dabrowski. This is as people like check their podcast to see how long it ended up going and laughing already because they know that it went so much longer. But yeah, I'm Elon Dabrowski. With me to take on this challenge, we've got so much to talk about. A lot's gone on in the NHL over these past 7 days. And the person that's going to break it all down with me is my co-host. Oh, did I say I'm your host? I'm also a co-host, by the way. And with me is my co-host, the great Brian Com. Brian, how's it going?
Hey, Elon, I'm good. How are you? Yeah, I've got the timer app on my phone ready. The goal is to do like 120 minutes every team in the league. That's the goal. I haven't
It's
started the timer
doable.
yet, but I'm going to. So if you're seeing the runtime of this episode is like a lot over that, and that includes everything once we start, maybe not including the credits. But we're gonna go for it. We've never, we love to hold ourselves accountable, but we've done a very poor job of holding ourselves accountable for time. So we're gonna do that. Also, we just want to give you a heads up. Our network contacted us and asked if they could, if they okay, right now we don't have the political category enabled in our ads, and all our ads are dynamically inserted. And I'm gonna be like a little inside baseball with everyone for a minute. Like ad revenue for us this season, not what it once was. And I think this is like an industry trend. So by the way, we really
Sad.
appreciate all our patrons because like that is like that what it's not it's like I said, it's not what it used to be. So your patronage is even more valued and appreciated at this moment. But also we at the request of our current ad server, we've enabled political ads. So you might hear some crazy stuff. I don't know exactly. Let us
Who
know.
knows? It's gonna be wild.
We have no say or endorsement or anything except for clicking the box to enable because they're like, there's a lot of ad spend right now in politics. So would you so we're gonna try it out, but you let us know what you think. And
Yeah.
and then
Let
I
us
guess
know if you're
we'll go
like,
from there.
your podcast offended me greatly, and then maybe we'll consider unchecking that box
Well,
again.
I
But
hope
we're
it wouldn't
trying it
be.
out.
It's not your podcast. It's the ads that were dynamically inserted by a third
Yeah.
party.
Also, let's
Yeah.
be real here, okay? And people who like are the sponsors of this podcast, like, please stop listening for a second. We're all skipping the ads, right? No one's listening to these ads, right?
Yeah, our
So who
network should
cares,
also
right?
skip that part. And and also, like, come on. I don't know. A political ad isn't going to sway me. I like you
Well,
you just skip past it.
it could. It could.
I
That's their
suppose.
job.
I don't
That's
know.
their
Like,
job.
honestly, for me, it's like go ahead, political entity. Like, go ahead, spend your
Take your shot.
money. I'm good. Like, I get my political influence from other sources.
Fair. I get it from
Yeah.
keeping Carlson. But okay. All right. So, anyways, with that out of the way, we're presented by Dauber Hockey. That's a true ad that we do endorse. That's a really great website. I use it to prep the show every day. I'm there all the time. Great articles for the daily ramblings. Check it out, dauberhockey.com. With that, Brian, let's get into it. So the plan is, we split our show into 6 sections. So each section is going to be 5 teams. Plus, we have to also squeeze in 2 other teams. But each section, we have 20 minutes per section. So start a 20-minute timer now. We got to cover Anaheim, Arizona, Boston, Buffalo, Calgary, and maybe another team if we're awesome. There's no way we will in this first section. So tell me when the timer starts. And then maybe, Brian, as we go, give me some warnings as we're like, each 5 minutes or something, maybe a 2-minute warning to make sure we get this going. But ready, tell me when we're starting.
Do you remember back in the day when like
Okay.
we were in youth group together and when there were speech time limits and we had like
Oh,
really subtle clues that you were approaching your time? Like if you have 1 minute left, I'll drop my pencil on the ground. I
why
think that
couldn't we
was
just say 1 minute?
I don't know, or like raise your
Show a
hand.
finger.
There were other. Well, I think you wanted to be like secret or subtle
Oh,
about it.
I
I
see.
don't. It
Okay.
was you probably really got a kick out of that. Anyway, I have the timer ready.
Tell
Are
me
you
when.
ready? Like you're ready to
Yeah, I'm
go with the
ready.
first team, like right
Yeah,
now?
let's do it. I'm
All
ready.
right, the timer starts 20 minutes and go.
All right, the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. It's not been a great week for Anaheim injury wise. It was all in one game. Well, first of all, they traded Jamie Drysdale for Cutter Gauthier, which is a whole thing. But whatever. Anaheim's not competing this year, so they're excited for the future. Gauthier is going to probably be a really high end player in the league. But anyways, Drysdale's out. Then like the next game, Zegras got injured. Minchukov got injured. I think John Gibson might be injured. I don't even have the latest update on John Gibson. But yeah, the only good news is like Leo Carlsson is apparently going to be back soon. But yeah, the Ducks all of a sudden a tricky team in their game where they got destroyed by Tampa Bay yesterday. Oh, by the way, every single NHL team played yesterday, which was exciting. That kind of like inspired me to have this idea of doing a show talking about every team. If the NHL's doing it, we can do it. But yeah, the Lions yesterday, McTavish, Vetrano, and Killorn, and Terry with Strome and Henrique. So I don't know. Does anyone now become more interesting to you? Like actually, Strome is hot again now, like he was earlier in the year. Vetrano's going. Troy Terry's looking good. Mason McTavish though kind of cold, but I feel like you can't drop Mason McTavish, right?
I don't think so. I'm trying to figure out exactly how many ducks are rosterable right now. I'm gonna start with one for sure though. Well, like because right now things like they're down in the dumps, right? Like you mentioned, Elon, they made a trade. The trade isn't gonna do anything in the short term, but maybe in like the short, medium term, and hopefully definitely in the long term. But what's left here in Anaheim? You mentioned Ryan Strome on a hot streak. He has, yeah, he's scored 2 goals and an assist in his last 3 games. That's the hot streak. And in his last 4 games, Strom has taken one single shot in 3 of them. And in the other game, of course, Ryan Strom took 6 shots because that makes perfect sense. But like he's not someone I'm rushing to. The Toronto we've talked about is sort of like flirting with free agency, but still nice shots, and he seems to, win you a week with a well-timed goal as he did for my opponent last week. So Leo Carlsson is also a piece of the puzzle when he comes back. But I think the big piece and the only one, like the only duck, Elon, that I'm like sure I want to hold is Troy Terry, which we couldn't have said earlier in the season. And congrats if you held on to Troy Terry and weathered the storm. He's got 12 points, 5 goals, 7 assists in his last 13 games, 28 shots, and Terry hasn't gone pointless for 2 consecutive games since back November 30th and December 2nd. So that's consistent production right there. Terry has 3 or more shots in 5 of his last 13 also. So the shots aren't always there, but he does have these bigger shot games that come. And it's a nice sign that Troy Terry seems to have moved on from his dog housing earlier in the season. And I wonder, Elon, if he's the only duck worth holding. I mean, you've got Dostal, Lucas Dostal, but we saw Tampa dismantle Anaheim last night. And that doesn't make me really want to have Dostal, especially with also the pieces like Zegras and Karlsson missing up front. And now they lost a defenseman who I guess already missed a bunch of time. But if you're wondering who is quarterbacking the power play with Minchukov out, it is there's like 2 units. Cam Fowler's got one. Elon, do you know who has the other?
Yeah, Jackson Lacombe, of course. Noted power play
Yeah,
specialist.
I would have said Jackson Lacombe. Second round pick, 39th overall back in 2019. He's 23 years old. This is going to be his first full pro season So we'll see what Jackson Lacombe has to offer if you're in a deep enough league.
Nah, don't
Yeah.
even
Yeah,
forget
like I
it.
like it's been a while since the Ducks power play has delivered us a relevant defenseman. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I don't
would
know,
say.
Elon. Do you want anyone like really other than like I say McTavish, like I guess try and hold, Vetrano try and hold, but I don't think either are must holds. I'd say Troy Terry is the only must roster in Anaheim.
I mean, I'll disagree with you on Vetrano. I just like I never thought he was a drop. Actually, I think Vetrano is a must hold. He's been taking a bunch of shots. He's got goals in 3 straight games. I love Frank Vetrano, so if he was available, I'd take him. But yeah, aside from that, and then Mason McTavish is cold right now, only like 6 points in his last 11 games. But I would still probably hold him. And then Leo Carlsson. So I think there might be some excitement here, and I love Anaheim's off day schedule. But it might. I'll be interested to see like if the goals are a lot harder to come by. I mean, they went a long time without Zegras earlier, and it went okay. And Minchukov is new, so I don't know. Maybe they can do it. Drysdale was out a long time too, and like all these guys had value at times. So it'll be fun. We'll have to check back on them. But Brian, okay, let's move on now to the Arizona Coyotes. What do you do with this team? Like especially in goaltending, like Connor Ingram, like was like a sure thing, was stealing all the starts. Then all of a sudden, Vejmelka went on this great run and had a bunch of shutouts, and then they were like alternating again. It was like, okay, I guess I don't care about Ingram anymore. And then Ingram got a game, like did badly against the Islanders like last week, and all of a sudden now Ingram's played 3 games in a row again and just got a 38 save shutout against Minnesota. So I guess we're back on, right? Like back to the Ingram train. What else can I say? I don't know. Goalies are crazy.
Goalies are crazy, and it seemed like Ingram had lost the job, and it didn't even seem like he had played well or consistently well enough to regain the job. But Vejmelka left the door open, and Ingram, I wonder if he's just like the incumbent at this point. He does seem to be the starter again.
Yeah, I like Ingram. I would grab him if he was available, but he's been taken. Also, by the way, a huge win, 6-0 for Arizona in their last game. So against Minnesota, against the returning Gustafsson, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Nick Bjugstad with a hat trick. Brian, did you know Bjugstad has had crazy shots his last couple of games out of nowhere? He was like, having a decent season, then went super quiet recently, and now all of a sudden Bjugstad's bad. He's playing with Genther and Logan Cooley, two exciting rookies, or I guess Genther's a sophomore. And yeah, all of a sudden, like 7 shots in the hat trick against Minnesota, 8 shots in the game before versus Calgary. He also has like points in 3 straight games. So maybe Bjugstad's someone to grab. I'd say him. He's someone to look at. And also, don't ignore Jack McBain, who all of a sudden is getting the job centering Keller and Schmaltz. It was Kerfoot for a little bit. Obviously, there was like Hayton way back in the day, but he got injured. But Jack McBain is there. And he had 2 assists
He's there.
in this last game against Minnesota, and he had four
Yeah,
blocks.
yeah, 4 blocks I think is the most notable piece, and he throws a hit every so often. Like he doesn't shoot though, so I'm not sure there's a whole lot of offense you're looking for from Jack McBain, but that's like fair to say about some other spots of the lineup. Matthias Michelli, I've been holding him for a while. I'm not holding him anymore. He's reverted to last season's where the points are less frequent and the shots are either 1 or 2 a game and mostly one. So I'm saying so long to Matthias Michelli. Dylan Genther, by the way, 13 shots over his first 4 pro games here. Oh, sorry, he played 33 games last. So his first 4 games of the season. He scored on 2 in his first 2 games. Hasn't done anything lately, but still is getting some looks on what looks to be a potential top power play unit. And I also just wanted to mention Nick Schmaltz. He's recovering. 7 points in his last 10 games following 7 game pointless drought. It's not perfect for Schmaltz, but I think he'll be able to keep up at least that pace rest of season. That's 56 points. No problem.
Yeah, and we talked about Keller last week. Actually, he was on a bit of a cold streak. We said that it'll be fine, and yeah, he's been scorching since. A great week for Clayton Keller. So congrats to everyone who got him out of bot low. Brian, how's our timer looking right now? We're done 2 teams here out of 5.
We have 12 minutes and
Oh,
19 seconds left.
we're killing it. All
We're
right,
actually like
let's go
right
to
on schedule somehow.
beautiful. And those were the teams that I had the most to say about. Actually, 2 of the highest ones. All right, let's go to the Boston Bruins here. So Pavel Zacha missed the last game. I think it was just an illness, not a big deal. Though it is interesting to note that Charlie Coyle got a really sweet spot with Marchand and Pasternak, and also Coyle was on the top power play with those guys in JVR and Charlie McAvoy. And also JVR hadn't been on the top power play. So the thing is, it's hard to read too much into these lines because maybe once Zaka is back, things go back. But I take a look. I would definitely be into Coyle if this lasts. He's taking a decent number of shots also recently, more than usual. JVR back on the top power play. He was great for a lot of the start of the season before he got bumped from there. So those are a couple of guys I'd be looking at on Boston. But again, check game day lines, make sure, like, see what's going on once Zaka's back.
Yes. Yeah. Charlie Coyle, top line, top power play taking shots is worth your time, right? That's worth a stream. Absolutely. And Van Riemsdyk, it's been one game on the top power play, and he played 4.5 minutes on the top unit, collecting one power play point. I'm not sure if that's that's good. I guess any game you get a power play point is good, but also 4.5 minutes is a lot of opportunity with it. Maybe I'm being too critical. Let's see if Van Riemsdyk holds that top power play spot for another couple games, and if he does, he is somebody to consider re-rostering because he was dropped en masse when he lost that power play role, as he should have been.
Yeah, and on the flip side, Morgan Geeky was getting that really good deployment with Pasternak and on the power play. So he wasn't there in the last game. Now he's pointless in two. If Morgan Geeky's been dropped by the, whatever, if you're in a deeper league where he was rostered in the first place and now dropped, I would take a look because if like Zaka comes back and everything goes back to normal, like I like Morgan Geeky. He was on a really nice run, and I don't think he's just gonna disappear now, even though he's pointless in two. So, but obviously, I'd love if he gets back on the top power play. All right, that's Boston. Let's go. Is this good? Give us feedback on what you like about this format where we're
Don't
kind of,
waste
I guess,
time. Keep
don't
going.
waste time. Buffalo. So big news out of Buffalo is, of course, Jeff Skinner is out for, I think, a while. I think this is, week to week with an upper body injury, according to the official Buffalo Sabres Twitter account. Tage Thompson had an injury scare, but he was back in the last game, thankfully, because Tage is finally started going like the first round pick that he was. He had that great 2-goal game against Ottawa. He had a 3-point game a little while back, taking a lot of shots. So hopefully Tage is like fully healthy from whatever that scare was. Let's take a look at the lines though with Skinner out. So Tage Thompson with Alex Tuck and Casey Middlestat. Man, those people who grabbed Middlestat earlier in the season, just that was a really smart idea. I wish I did that. And then then Quinn Paterka and Dylan Cousins. Those are your two like notable lines. Any of those 6 people are somewhat interesting. And then the person on the top power play with Tage and Tuck and Middlestat and Dahlin is Jack Quinn. So Jack Quinn obviously like started the season late. He came back from that injury, but he's got now 6 points in 11 games. He's been a little bit quiet lately, but I love this deployment if he's going to be on the top power play. So I would definitely take a look at Jack Quinn. And then one other person I'll mention before throwing to you, Brian, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen seems to make, well, I mean, I don't know. They've still been kind of like alternating, but Luukkonen's been better right now than Devon Levi recently. And so yeah, Luukkonen's coming off now this great game. They lost like 1-0 to Vancouver. Obviously not his fault, stopping 22 of 23. I think that Luukkonen is definitely an interesting play. I'll be curious to see who Buffalo starts on Monday. If they give Luukkonen another start, if they just go back to Levi.
Yeah, Luukkonen still is not he's started 2 in a row now, and that's about as much as he's gotten, right? And before that, he hadn't started consecutive games since back in mid-December. So or actually, I don't even know if he started both those games. I think he changed at some point with Levi. Luukkonen gave up 5 goals. Levi gave up 4. I can't tell who might have started that, but just by looking at what I'm looking at. Levi, he had 4 great starts after being called up in the first week of December. Since then, he's just got an 868 save percentage in 6 games, just a single quality start, and that was against Montreal. So Luukkonen will get starts, I imagine, but his pattern also seems to be to crumble reasonably quickly. So 2 of his last 3 starts have been good. Luukkonen has held on to be relevant for longer than that before, but more often he is not. So I would get him and see how long the party lasts and just recognize that this isn't probably a permanent situation for him. As for the rest of Buffalo, Casey Middlestat, yeah, the Middlestat madness continues, but is it JJ Paterka-ing out? That was a bad, no, that I think that pun failed. Is it petering out? Is what I was trying to say for Middlestat. He's pointless in 4 of his last 6 games, but the 2 games where Middlestat did point, he had multi-point outings, and that helps sort of cover up the inconsistent production. So far, 67-point pace for Middlestat. It's almost all come at 5-on-5, thanks to a high shooting percentage and a high on ice shooting percentage. I know he might get some extra looks because Jeff Skinner's out. But if I had Middlestat, I might be trying to cash out right now. Um, I'll put that out there. Elon's looking at me like, huh? How
No,
could
I'm not
you?
like I'm not saying I'm just saying like people sometimes go on like a couple games without a point, like it happens. But I think Middlestat's had a great year. He's now on the top line, like with Thompson and on the top power play. He's overall on the season pacing for 67. Like when you
Yeah,
say cash out, like I mean, sure, if you could get like a point per game player, like, but I just think like I don't see a reason to now think like, oh, that's it, the party's over. Casey Middletat stinks now. Like,
I wonder.
people would go cold.
For sure. I think he's more still like a 55, 60 point player than a 65, 70 point player. So if you can make
Even with
like
this
a,
deployment, like even
yeah,
if he sticks on the top power play.
I mean, the top
I
power
guess
play
we'll see.
will help, but he hasn't done much even when he's had those looks this season already. So we'll see.
I guess we'll see. We'll
I'm
see.
not sure about
Trev is
this,
here
but
in the chat. He'll tell us
okay.
in a
All
month.
right. And everyone else has been pretty quiet. Like you said, you mentioned Cousins and Paterka being on the second line as guys you might be interested in, but I don't know, Elon. They've both been quiet for a while. So I'm not sure
Yeah.
that I'm like, to me, they seem there's upside for sure. But I'm not sure how close they are to realizing. And remember, Cousins was on that top power play, hasn't been in a very long time, isn't the next in line anymore, clearly. And so I think we need to make sure we're detached from our preseason expectations of Dylan Cousins.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Definitely, I'm not as interested. Like, if he was dropped, I would take a look. But no, now, I mean, give me the top power play guys, right? And it could change at any time. Right now, Jack Quinn, like, piques my interest a little, but also, you know, we have to see. But I would take probably Jack Quinn over Cousins at this point because of the deployment. But of course, it could change in a day. Brian, how much time do we have left? Do we have one more team to go in this section?
5 minutes and 2 seconds.
Oh, this is relaxing. We can just sit back. Brian, how's your family doing? How was your week?
That's a bat. Don't get cocky.
Okay. All right. So oh yeah, we could knock out two teams here because we do have to do two extra teams throughout. So let's go to the Calgary Flames next. Uh, okay, I probably would have wrote in my notes. I can't say, but expletive. Blake Coleman. This guy. Like we said in the last episode, he'll probably keep it up. We were already talking about his hot streak, but he just keeps going. Like this game against Vegas, another goal, and he has three straight multi-point games. This is Blake Coleman. There's a guy in my he's actually both in my couple division and in my dynasty league who's now shopping Blake Coleman in the dynasty league because he's on such a hot streak, like for good reason. I'm very curious to see if he's going to be able to pull off a trade there. I mean, obviously he's not going to get multi-point games every game, but like congrats to anyone who added him, and like there's no point even throwing cold water. I think we all know like this is Blake Coleman is awesome, and I would ride this out. What, 7 points in his last three games, but probably like what is it, like 15 points in his last 10. Like he's insane. And also Mikhail Backlund right along with him, who I had on my couple team, dropped at some point, even though he was doing fine, but just like the schedule wasn't looking good. And Backlund has like 4 points in his last three, like playing with the great Blake Coleman, taking a bunch of shots. If either of these guys are out there for you, I'm interested. Like Calgary's all of a sudden like looking pretty good. By the way, Jacob Markstrom is one of the hottest goalies in the league right now. Again, like goalies, like this is a guy who we struggled so much last year. Now Markstrom is like up to a 912 save percentage overall, but you look at that game log recently and it's just win after win after win, like gem after gem of like 920, 940 save percentages in there. So Calgary, it's Calgary time. They're great.
Yeah, Calgary is it's so annoying to trap myself into saying super hot right now. Backlund has activated that thing where his whole line is fire. Like this happens when you play with when you are Backlund or play with Backlund, but we haven't done this. We haven't seen it in a little while. And Coleman is obviously part of that, and also like it's all symbiotic, right? Coleman benefits, Coleman contributes. More Coleman, the Coleman thermos is keeping things hotter than colder these days. And then Igor Sharangovich, no shots versus Vegas last night, but he had almost 4 shots per game in the 8 games leading up to that. That's pretty good. And going back even further, Sharangovich is averaging 3 shots per game for the last 6 weeks or so. 23 games. And I like that. He's still converting near 20%, which doesn't seem sustainable, but I think he might be able to keep converting around 15%. So it's not a huge chunk taken off to regress. And then Jacob Markstrom, I brought him up. I think I paused to give him some special attention for what he's been doing. If he had been dropped, like I'm in a shallow league where he was dropped. He was added before last week, but yeah, I don't know. everyone's snoozing on free agency when someone gave up rightfully on Jacob Markstrom earlier in the season because no wins, bad numbers. Go get him now.
I mean, yeah, that would be a wild league if Markstrom is still available if he plays every game and he's like just scorching.
I feel like there's a
But
home league where he's been ignored or forgotten.
maybe. Let us know if you're listening to this and you're now gonna like add Markstrom after our advice. Sharon Govich, by the way, Brian, I was just thinking like he's been doing so well this year, and he was traded in the offseason for Tyler Toffoli, and it was kind of like the idea of like, well, the Devils are like going for it now. Calgary's maybe like rebuilding a little bit, so they want to get younger. But this is kind of like everyone talks about the Pierre-Luc Dubois for the trade that they made like LA and Winnipeg, where it was like Dubois for like a bunch of like little futures, and I guess or like Velarde. Now all of a sudden it's like Winnipeg looks like they crushed that deal, and Dubois stinks. Like Tyler Toffoli is not doing that well lately, and Sharon Govich is now up to 30 points in 43 games. Like you said, on a great run, had that hat trick against Arizona. That'll be a fun one to look back on in a little bit and see like how much. Like I'm curious how for real Sharon Govich is. He's pacing for 57 now. It keeps going up and up. I wonder if New Jersey will maybe want that one back at some point. I think the idea there was like Toffoli will be better, for the next couple years, and then maybe eventually Sharon Govich becomes better. But I don't think anyone was expecting this. So how much time do we have now?
Well, I'm just gonna say I would rather have Toffoli for sure. Like Sharon Govich has been doing well, but I don't think he provides what Toffoli does, even though his shot volume has reached top end Toffoli like levels, and Toffoli hasn't even really been able to keep that up necessarily himself. So yes, it's not it doesn't look like it's been a slam dunk win for the Devils, but I still would much rather have Toffoli both on my fantasy and real life team. And with that, Elon, we have 12 seconds.
But have you seen Toffoli recently? 10 points in his last 20 games. He's on a real bad
We
cold
went.
streak.
I talked about this last week, right?
I
He's on a
know.
real bad cold streak. That's exactly how I would put it too.
Okay. I guess that's it. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll do our next five teams. See ya. All right, we are back. Brian, we are done. Five teams. We didn't knock out one of our bonus teams. We'll see if we can do it this episode. I probably shouldn't have asked you about your family. That was a mistake. I'll never do that again. So start the timer. Let me know when it started. We'll jump over to the Carolina Hurricanes.
I already started it.
What? No, start it now. We haven't started yet. Doesn't count.
You're wasting time.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, the big news, obviously, out of Carolina right now is that Kochetkov is hurt. Rod Brindamore, the latest tweet we have is he's in concussion protocol after having exited the last game. That was on January 12th, so a couple days ago. So I don't think we have an update yet on like how long he'll be out. In the meantime, it seemed like, well, they're screwed now because Antti Ranta was like so terrible and had to be sent to the minors. But Ronda's been good now like, the last couple of games. I guess like he got the wake up call he needed. I don't know, took a rest. But he had a shutout against well, I guess he came in relief. But then in his last game against Pittsburgh, only 2 goals against on 40 shots for a huge win for the Canes over the Penguins. So I guess Ronta will keep getting run out. I'd imagine they have now Yaniv Peretz, a guy who wasn't even in like the AHL, right, for a lot of the season, and so he's there as the backup. I'd imagine the plan is to run Ronta as long as they can. So if he's out there in free agency, I mean, on one hand, you could be like, oh my God, this is such a huge risk if you add Antti Ranta. But on the other hand, if he's a starting goalie on the Carolina Hurricanes, who are a good team, and he's shown to be a bit better lately. He also had a good game against St. Louis, his first game after getting called up. Like I mean, I don't see a reason why not to grab him. I guess we were just talking about Ingram. I'd be curious, like Ranta and Ingram, if they're both out there, who would you grab?
Oh, huh. We don't know enough about Kochekov's injury, I think. Like he's in concussion protocol, right? Which means either Kochekov is like being monitored and he'll be totally fine, or he'll be concussed and it could be weeks before we see him again. So I'm trying to think of what premise I should operate on, whether Kochekov comes back or not. Uh,
Yeah, maybe it's like, Ingram is the longer term safer bet, but Ronta
yeah.
could have huge upside
You know
because
what? If
I feel like
both were
Ingram, yeah, will keep on splitting maybe.
if both were playing the same amount of games, I think I would go Ingram. And I think Ingram's
Okay.
more I think it seems to me like he's still going to play at least 2 of 3 for now, which is pretty decent. And Ranta, like if I had to add a goalie today, I think I'd lean Ingram just because Ranta's been like so horrific this year.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
he really I don't know if you saw the highlights from Saturday night, but he flashed the glove on Crosby. That was a pretty impressive moment. Maybe he can find his groove. Like maybe that's what he needed, Antti Ranta, to snap out of this funk he's been in. But I think my biggest piece of advice on Ranta is to see how long Kochekov is going to be out for. Keep an eye on that news. But in the meantime, a spec out on Ranta won't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it could. He could give you -10 a couple points like he did that game a
Could
few weeks
it
ago.
could very well hurt actually. And I was actually checking the Canes shot volume because we usually say like you'll get a lot of wins but low volume. The Canes like have given up 30 or more shots. I don't know, not all. Like I'm looking at Kochekov's numbers. In Kochekov's like last 10 starts, they've given up 3 times 10 or more shots, or sorry, 30 or more shots, which like isn't. I would prefer more volume, especially from someone I can't really trust. In Antti Ranta.
Okay, and then obviously Aho and Svechnikov just continue to be dominating his points every game, sometimes multi-point games. Finally, their line mate Teuvo Teravainen is getting in on it. For a while, they talked about it on short shifts, how Teravainen was like somehow on this line, who they were getting like 1,000,000 points, and then Teravainen somehow wasn't getting in on anything. Now he got 4 points in his last 3 games. So, I know Brian's already ready to tell everyone that Teravainen sucks, but if he's in free agency, look, you're on the top line with the two of the hottest players in the league. I think you can do worse. So I'm just throwing it out
Yeah.
there, and then Brian can scoff.
No, no, so long as we're clear, like it's as a third wheel. It's not as like old Tavo. 2 of his last 4 points that he's gotten in the last 3 games on this little run were from the second power play unit. So that's not something we can get used to. And yeah, I mean, you should get a Tavo Teravainen hat. You love this. Like I don't fully understand your
Look, my job as
undying.
a podcaster is I'm like one of the things I do is I look at guys who are on the top line and are on a hot streak. And Tavo fits
Yeah,
that.
he
And a guy
fits
who's
the
probably in
bill.
free agency in a lot of leagues. That's
Okay,
someone you look at.
that's cool. So long as the frame, um, as long as the frame is Tavo back? Was he
I
ever
didn't. Yeah.
gone? So long as we're clear on the frame. Teravainen has good
Yeah.
deployment. Not this could be a return to form, which I don't think it is.
If he was in free agency, I would take a look.
Me
But yeah.
too.
All right. So let's go now to the Chicago Blackhawks. So everyone's injured, but they got someone back. They got Seth Jones back. Chicago hasn't let in as many goals as I thought they would. Like they did lose on Saturday to Dallas, only 3-1. That was Seth Jones' return game, and he didn't get any points. He did have 3 shots and 4 blocks, so still a decent number of cupful points in our league where we count zero point 0.5 for each of those. So I don't know. It's almost like I'm still not that into him. And like without Connor Bedard, this team's lineup just looks so like the Lions in the last game, Taylor Radish, Kurashev, and Rem Pitlick. That's your top line. I'm not going to read more lines. That's your top line. Rem Pitlick was just picked up. He was waived, I think, by Pittsburgh or I don't even know from who. But now he's a top liner on Chicago. So, but anyways, Seth Jones is there, and if you need peripherals, he's good. But I don't expect a lot of points.
No, me neither. I'm not expecting a whole lot from anyone on Chicago. Seth Jones, he played 24 minutes in his return, 4 blocks, 3 shots, -2, 2 PIMs. I'm not sure what else you could really expect from him aside from those exact numbers. Like that's even like I think that's a good showing for Jones. That's on the high end of what he's going to be able to produce for you. I looked at the power plays. Like Kevin Korchinski played more time on the power play on Saturday night. On I'm just gonna say a power play unit. Like I'm not really sure. I don't know which we had this conversation before. I'm not 100% which player signifies that it's the top unit. Like it's really
I would
easy
think
to.
maybe Seth Jones, shouldn't it be?
I don't know. Should it?
Anyway, who cares?
So
Doesn't
yeah.
matter.
Pat,
They're
you
not going to
mentioned
score.
you mentioned goals against Mrazek. He started 3 in a row, which hasn't happened a whole lot this season. He's had one good, one bad, one fine start. The bad start was when Mrazek lost against Edmonton by letting in 2 of the 15 shots. 15. He only stopped 15 pucks. That was a head scratcher. He only stopped 13 of them, and Chicago
Yeah.
scored 1 goal. Like if you're starved for starts, you go for Mrazek, but I think that might be the only reason. Like obvious, I think it's obvious. Like it goes without saying, I would prefer Antti Ranta.
Yeah, I think it's good like that Chicago's players like clearly aren't scorers, so they're probably playing a defensive game and they're trying to keep those games a little bit like lower. What do they call like low what's the word for when it's like
Low
things that
event,
happen? Low
low
event,
event.
that's it.
But
A
yeah, but
thing.
you're saying like, oh well, they can't play offense, so they should play more defense. But like,
I think
I
that's
would
what they're
argue,
doing.
I'm not sure they have the personnel to play defense either.
Well, they kept the Oilers to 15
It's
shots, like you
it's
said.
easy.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's easier to stifle a team, I guess, than to go on a scoring spree.
Yeah. All right. So next up, let's go to the Colorado Avalanche. How much time do we have left, Brian? We've done two of the five teams for this section.
We have, oh my gosh, exactly like 12 minutes and 22 seconds.
All
That's
right,
like
we're
what it
good. All
was
right.
last time. Okay.
So on Colorado, I guess we've got a lot of news of people coming back soon, right? Lehkonen is going to travel with the team on the upcoming road trip. This was already like 5 days ago. Like he could play Monday for all we know. It's like every day I'm excited to see the Lehkonen news. Also, Gabriel Landeskog has been like I don't know, practice. I think it's still a while for Landeskog, but I'm starting to see him getting added and even traded in the couple. So if you can stash him in your IR, maybe you'll get a chance at some Landeskog at some point. I wouldn't bank on it, but just saying. In the last game, Nichushkin was out. Those due to like an illness, so maybe he'll be back tomorrow, maybe not. Yeah. In the meantime, I'm very obviously we're still just waiting with anticipation to see what the lines, what the power plays are going to be with Lehkonen back, what's going to happen to Nichushkin, who's been like just so red hot. Until then, there's not really much we can say except like grab Lehkonen out of free agency if you can. And I'm not too worried about Nichushkin, but maybe I'm being a fool. Maybe I should have traded him a week ago. So we'll have to wait. And then I'll also mention so McKinnon, Rantanen are scorching hot. Like I don't know what to say about them. McKinnon might win the Hart this year. I wouldn't be surprised. Jonathan Drouin still doing well. 1 goal, 1 assist against Toronto. Up to now 8 points in his last 6 games. I think we said on the last episode to add Jonathan Drouin or like a few episodes ago. So if you haven't done it yet, it's becoming like, and again, like, yeah, Lehkonen will come back. Maybe he'll bump him from the power play, but maybe not. And either way, like right now, I would love 25 minutes also for Drouin in the last games. This isn't like usually a coattail guy doesn't play 25 minutes. So he's a contributor.
Yeah. Drouin's been really good. This is easily the most productive stretch of Jonathan Drouin's career. 7 goals, 9 assists for 16 points in his last 15 games. He's taken just under 2 shots a game in that time, and he's scored 7 times on 28 shots. That's a 25% shooting percentage, but 3 of those come on the power play, which are higher percentage opportunities. So that offsets some of that expected regression. A lot, by the way, has come. Like Drouin has I think it's 5 goals on his last 10 shots over the last 6 games. So he's shooting 50% very recently. In this stretch, 16 points in 15 games. Also, 7 of those 16 points have come on the power play. So he's involved, making use of that top power play spot. And you mentioned his minutes, Elon. Yeah, he's played over 20 minutes in 7 straight games. I would never expect Jonathan Drouin from all we've seen from his usage in his career to be a high, like there aren't a lot of forwards who play more than 20 minutes a night, especially without a short-handed role. And Jonathan Drouin apparently is now one of them. It's a bit of a head scratcher. He even played, well, it's not a head scratcher, it's just like, whoa, it's like a jaw dropper, maybe is a better way. 28 minutes against Boston, including 8 on the power play. In 7 straight games, I mentioned 20 or more minutes, including 3 with 25 minutes or more. So that is a freaking fantastic for Jonathan Drouin. And I wonder, Elon, we've been talking about when Lehkonen comes back, who does he displace? And I could see Lehkonen going to work on the second line, second power play with
Yeah.
Nichushkin. Like they're both going to be on the outside looking in because Jonathan Drouin has taken their lunch.
Yeah, and on the power play, I think like just Drouin and Nichush can stay there. And it's like this isn't like Wayne Gretzky. This is Arturi Lehkonen. Like it's not, everyone's so worried about our Lehkonen. Who Lehkonen's gonna like Lehkonen just could not be on the power play, right? So will be interesting to see. Like at least now, while it's doing well, maybe at some point things can shake up. I don't see why like Lehkonen has to come and bump one of these productive players. I hope. Okay. I'll mention quickly. Devon Taves is cold again. He's gone 4 games without a point. If you look at his game log through the season, like every time he goes 4 or 5 games without a point, after that he goes on a point streak. So probably time to trade for Devon Taves if you could find someone who's like worried. I'm not worried at all.
Yeah, I guess me neither. I don't know. Devon Taves has been a really hard one for me. When I'm for him, he doesn't show up, and when I'm against him, he does. So I'm just
That's
gonna
why I'm doing the
assume that.
opposite now. When he's
Yeah,
cold, I'm gonna say he's good.
yeah,
Next time
I
he's
think
hot,
so.
I'll say he's too hot.
I'm with you. Let's do that.
Okay. All right, Columbus. Were we wrong? I think on the last episode we talked about how Adam Boqvist was back. I said how he's on the top power play now, and I feel like you were quick, but I like agreed like easily. You're quick to say, we've seen this before. It's Adam Boqvist. It's not gonna, he's gotten shots on the top power play. It never works out. Well, maybe we were too quick to poo-poo the guy because he's had a really good week there. He's now has 4 points in his last 4 games, 3 of them on the power play. Columbus is a kind of a mad team, but Adam Boqvist is running their top power play. He's the quarterback, and he's getting power play assists most games. So I think it's worth taking another look at him.
Yeah, I mean, we did say he was still young, 23 years old, and that he's had opportunities to show us before like what he is now, and we were open to him having something new. All that said, I'm still not like huge on Boqvist. 3 power play points in 4 games since taking that role. That's great. He's got one other point that wasn't on the power play. He's taken one single shot in each of the last 4 games. And like this is the sort of profile of a player that even if he can be somewhat productive on the power play, I'm not sure that'll be enough. Like even if he gets a power play point every other game, which I really don't expect, then I'm not even certain how many, like if he rosters above sort of a higher floor peripheral defenseman.
Yeah, that's fair. Just
Also,
wanted
if
to
you,
give him some cred.
yeah, no, for sure. Yes, let's give him some credit. I'm sorry that I didn't. Also, just quickly in net, Daniil Tarasov has started 3 consecutive games and did very well in the first one against Philly and then gave up 4 and 5 goals against Minnesota and Winnipeg, respectively. I don't want the Columbus starter on my team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Merzlikins has already been confirmed to play tomorrow, Monday. So if you want to take a shot on Elvis, like I would be very nervous. Let me see. Who's that game against? Tomorrow's a busy day, by the way. I mentioned on Matchup Maximizer. Definitely check out that podcast I dropped yesterday. It's oh yeah, against Vancouver. Good luck. Good luck with Merzlik. And whenever you say it, then like I was a good luck with Ronta, and then he like had some great games. But like I would personally not stream in Merzlikins against the Canucks. But that's just me. Brian, how's our timer looking? We've got one team to go to knock out our 5. Maybe we could even make it a 6. I don't know.
We've got just over 5.5 minutes.
Okay, all right. Let's go to Detroit. Let's see what we can do. Oh no, let's go to Dallas first. This will be an easy one. Dallas is the same as always. Like there's nothing to say. The top line is great. The second line is great. Duchesne, Sagan, and Marchment just all continue to crush it. I don't know if we need to just continue to drool over how great. Though I will say, like having recently traded for Matt Duchesne in my dynasty, I'm like really, really excited about this. We talked about last week how he's on the top power play lately. That hasn't lasted that much, but he did get a power play goal. I think it was in the last game. Anyway, whatever. He's great. I guess the big news out of Dallas, again, there's not much to talk about. Ottinger's back. Wedgwood is hurt now potentially, so I guess the fake Matt Murray might stick around a little longer, but doesn't matter, right? Ottinger's back, and he'll he had a good game, stopped 20 of 21 in the win over Chicago. I mean, not the hardest team, but so welcome back, Jake Ottinger. I guess he had a bit of a rougher game against Nashville, but anyway, yeah. There. Oh, I guess Wedgwood started the game against Chicago and got injured. And that's why Ottinger was there. But obviously, yeah, Ottinger is someone that's rostered in every league. There's not much advice we can give.
Wedgwood was finally having a good start and was like, oh no, I can't take this anymore. And he had to leave. It was the worst. Like I thought when I got Wedgwood at a free agency shortly after Ottinger was injured, I'm like, yeah, I won the race. I got him. I got the Dallas starter. I wish somebody else had to bear that
Yeah.
burden. It was not fun. And the thing is like the Dallas offense is crazy, right? So Wedgwood still might win, but barely. And with all his other numbers wrecking the value of the win, the Dallas offense, the last time they scored less than 3 goals was 10 games ago. They don't stop on December 27th at St. Louis. And like you look through the whole season, it doesn't happen that often. Like you can lock and like often it's 4 or more, 8 sometimes. It's crazy. And part of that is Jason Robert. You mentioned the second line, but also Jason Robertson. 6 goals, 10 assists, 16 points in his last 13 games, taking almost 4 shots per game. So those shots have returned. We were waiting for that. It's happened. And only 4 power play points in his last 13 games. So there might even be room. Well, maybe some of the even strength stuff will regress. But if there was a buy low window, even though it was kind of like a cautious one because the shots weren't there and we didn't know exactly what was going on. But that window slammed shut. Anyone who did draft Jason Robertson can start feeling pretty good that they're finally getting the player that they thought they had drafted, likely in your first round.
Yeah, we've thrown some players like over the season of like who you can try to use to buy low on Robertson, but I guess it's too late now. At this point, we can no longer say, "Oh, maybe try to trade this guy for Robertson while he's hot," because now I think the Robertson manager is very happy with what they're getting.
All right,
Okay, so
Elon.
Brian,
Detroit in
yeah,
3 minutes.
easy. My main thing I want to talk about on Detroit is Alex Lyon. This guy, like, I think he's for real, and I don't think he's being treated as such. Like I feel like there's been a lot of posts on our Discord recently. Like I've got like there was one post recently was like kind of like I got these as my main two goalies, and then I've got Lion who's just like a streamer, and I'm thinking like maybe we need to think again about that. Like I don't know, Ville Husso, we haven't gotten any updates from him. He might not be back for like a long time, and even if he is, like well, whatever, even forget that. Like let's just pretend he's not, because for now he might not be back for a long time. Lion just gets every single game. Like Reimer's finally playing today because it's a back-to-back for Detroit. By the way, get this, Brian. It's Samsonov versus Reimer, which I thought was going to be like a 10-10, like just a crazy offensive game. Leafs just scored in the second. They went scoreless in the first period. I see that Pontus Holmberg, of course, just scored a goal. Actually, Holmberg's, I think, on the top line now. We'll get when we get to Toronto, we can talk about the crazy lines for today. But anyways, Alex Lyon is like really good. I think he should be rostered in all leagues. Like, why not? You have a goalie who's playing every game. He's doing really well. Like, you look at the game log, it's almost all over 900. Like no, all over 917 save percentages for the last like 4 games. So get him if you have him, I wouldn't think of him as this like disposable part of your roster. I think he's like a guy that you're holding and rolling out there reliably for foreseeable future. But maybe I'm being
Yeah,
too crazy. And obviously now that I say it, he's going to blow up because it's goalies.
I mean, that's the concern, right? Like, how long can this last? But for Alex Lyon, like all season, he's been great. He's got a 9-4-1 record, 64% quality starts, and 922 save percentage. Even though, like, if you look beyond his last 4 starts, which are all strong to excellent, it was pretty iffy. But he's bolstered those numbers well lately. And going back to last season with Florida, in his last 29 appearances, Alex Lyon has a 916 save percentage and a 68% quality start number. So like that's all very and an assist. You could toss that in. So all of that bodes like looks really good for Lyon. His underlying numbers as a goalie look good. Is like he's performing well above expected and into like the very good tier of goalie right now. We'll see, right? Like we haven't seen him play a whole lot of volume, but I would happily like, versus Antti Ranta and Connor Ingram, I would take Alex Lyon because I
Yeah,
think
I think
he's
it's
he's
easy.
he's looking for those starts. Yeah.
And obviously, like when I say easy, I mean like for goalies, easy. Like not saying I'm like gonna sell my house or bet my house on this. Brian, so how's the time
Well,
now?
why not?
Well,
There's
because
there's
goalies are unpredictable.
there's 19 seconds left, and I'm gonna use it to say Andrew Copp is on a run. Cool, like whatever. And I'll also mention David Perron, top line, and is on like one of the power play units. He's on the Larkin unit that's splitting with the Kane and DeBrincat unit. Nothing great from him, but like back into like Hail Mary streamer territory, right? So there's that, and we're out of time.
All right, this has been fun. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll do our next 5 teams. We've knocked out 11. We're doing great, Brian. See you all soon. Okay, we are back. Hopefully, you enjoyed those politically charged ads you were just exposed to. And we are done with the D's. We're on to E. We're going to Edmonton, Brian. My birthday buddy, Connor McDavid, got a really nice birthday present yesterday because he got his 10th straight win. The Oilers are crushing it 2-1 over Montreal. Some of these wins haven't been that pretty. Like you said, they only took 15 shots or whatever against Chicago, but they're getting it done. And I guess sticking on the goalie train here, we talked about Alex Lyon. I think we really need to start. Like if we were going to do, sometimes we've done it. I don't know if we're going to do it this year, but sometimes we've done mid-season more goalies board episodes where we re-tier our goalies for the second half of the season. I think Stuart Skinner, like I don't know, maybe Hellebuck is like in a tier all by himself. Maybe in Demko. But I think Skinner, there's an argument he should be there. Just like I was saying about Alex Lyon, Stuart Skinner's playing every game. Like Calvin Pickard gets in every once in a while. And he's actually been a pretty good like stream, like spot start when you can get a Calvin Pickard game. But Stuart Skinner plays every game. He's doing super well. He's got 77 quality starts in his last 7 games. I feel like if I was redrafting right now, he'd be probably in my top 3. I don't know, maybe that's too crazy, but yeah, I think it's like you've got Demko, Hellebuck, and Stuart Skinner right there.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Like, yes, I'm with you. Like, if there is such a thing as a tier one goalie, Stuart Skinner qualifies with his play and the team he's on. He was running hot and cold most of the season, but it didn't matter because the wins were coming for Skinner. Although, I don't know if you remember, it seems like a distant memory now, but remember how freaked out everyone was over Edmonton's start? Like,
No,
it
of
was like, oh, blow
course.
it up. Like, it was a mess. But for that's so far in the past now. Skinner himself has now won 7 straight going back to December 22nd. And in those 7 straight wins, he's given up just 10 goals against. That's crazy. A 951 save percentage. Skinner's record is a 17-4 record overall since November 11th. So yeah, Stuart Skinner crushing it, doing everything you would want a top tier goalie to do.
Yeah. Definitely, I think having a healthy Connor McDavid makes a big difference. I think that might just have
Mm,
been it. Like he was just kind of
wow.
playing a little hurt.
Uh,
Brian, did you start the timer by the way for this third section?
you bet I did.
Okay, all right, great. I'll mention quickly Evander Kane still cold, but in the last game, this is what it takes now for Evander Kane. So Ryan McLeod was ill or something, didn't play, and so Evander Kane got to go back to play with Draisaitl, and look at that, 4 shots and assist. Had more ice time than he's had in a while. So I guess Evander Kane is hoping that Ryan McLeod takes his time coming back to the lineup, and so are Evander Kane managers. Hopefully, it's the start of something. All right, let's go to the Florida Panthers here. We had a question from Duster Bugless on Twitter wanting to know if he should drop Brandon Montour, who, yeah, just we like for a while we were saying like, we'll keep, give him some time. He's easing into the lineup. Okay, he's played 26 games now. I think it's time. He had an assist in the last game versus New Jersey for what it's worth, a power play assist. That was his first point in 4 games. Then before that, like on January 4th, he had 2 assists, and before that, it was another 4 game pointless streak. So I mean, it's hard not to just hold the Florida top power play defenseman, but we do have to admit that this power play is like I think Montour, like, I haven't watched enough, but I think Montour is like starting the play, giving it to, Reinhart. That goes Reinhart, Barkov, Kachuk, back to Reinhart, Barkov, and then someone scores. And like Brandon Montour is never getting in on these power play goals. And I don't see a big reason to expect things to change. Like, I'm sure he'll do a little bit better, but I'm losing, but maybe that's just me being naive and like being dumb. And now I'd be the perfect person to try to buy Brandon Montour from. But are you seeing any reason to expect things to be radically different for the rest of the season?
He's been really non-participative at both 5-on-5 and on the power play on goals that are being scored. Like, so a lot of goals are still being scored with him on the ice, just he's getting in on fewer of them. But I also see like his expected goals numbers personally are down, like not a lot, but at least like basically at this point we're saying, hey, should we expect Brandon Montour to get back to the 75 point pace he had last season, which like we were expecting him to get close enough to touch that, like with quite a bit of confidence. And now it's time to like officially revise that and say, not so sure. Whether you drop him or not, it depends on your patience. And I still think he can have a really relevant season. Like I see a lot of bad variants for him, but I also see him shooting less on the power play and at 5-on-5 on the power play, he's actually attempting as many shots. They're just getting blocked more often, and few are getting all the way to the net. So, yeah, I would say maybe revise Montour to 60 or 65 points, and whether you continue to be patient or not depends on your tolerance, right? It's basically if a player's on a cold streak, how long do you wait for him to find his game again? And that's going to be up to you. If I had Brandon Montour, I think I just waited out because
Yeah.
like in my free agency, I could swap Montour out for like I don't know, like maybe a 40-point defenseman and with like peripherals or like someone with half decent peripherals but no points. And I would rather like, it's a risk reward situation. And I think I'd rather just hold the guy who could be the big reward rather than drop him and limit how much I'm going to get from whoever.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I'm probably holding as long as he's on the top power play. And like I'm watching every day for like permission to drop from the coach for when they put like Ekblad there, or Forsling or whoever. But I think as long as he's there, you got to expect at some point he'll be the one that like, tripped over the puck before it went to Sam Reinhart, who scored one of his million goals that he always scores. And yeah, by the way, Reinhart, Kachuk, by the way, another like Jason Robertson, right? Like, people were worried about him. You can't stop Matthew Kachuk right now. So congrats to everyone who held on to him. But okay, let's move on to the LA Kings. And unfortunately, Brian, one of my big early season calls that I was proud of is not working out too well right now. All of a sudden, the Kings are on a big cold streak. They haven't won, I don't know since when, since like maybe December 23rd. It's been a while. And a lot of those losses are at the hands of Cam Talbot in net. Not to blame him, like it's a team, but Talbot now in his last 4 games has had 5, 3, 3, and 4 goals against. It's been a while since we've seen like a really good game from Talbot. This lost yesterday to Detroit 5-3. He led in all 5 goals on only 27 shots. It's an 815 save percentage. I'm seeing his goals saved above average. GSAA, is that goals saved above expected? A is not expected. What is that?
Goals saved above average. So it
Goals
is
saved.
like an expected sort of stat. Yeah.
Right. Well, it was bad, negative 2.38. So I guess Talbot didn't have a good game. So I guess the question now, and I don't know how you would answer it, but like, is Talbot just like, turning back into a pumpkin, turning back into last season Talbot? Or is it like now is the primo time, to pull like what people did, like with Stuart Skinner, who was like bad at the start of the year. And now if you got him, you're like loving it. Where are you at with Cam Talbot at this point? Like, if you have him, do you drop? If you don't have him, do you try to trade for him? Or like, what do you do?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I'm not sure exactly what to like Talbot himself like he hasn't been awful. And by the way, I did double check. Like the Kings did last win December 27th. It's really hard to believe. Um so many starters have been unreliable. And like, me, I have little to no faith in Talbot, but I'm not taking this opportunity to pile on him because I don't think what he's doing is a lot different from most other goalies who are getting regular starts in the league. Like they're not our favorite goalies, but still he's not falling way outside the expectation of what a starter should deliver. But it's definitely a change lately, right? Because he was so rock steady and solid. Thing is, in LA, what's their other choice? They have David Riddick, who can have one good start, maybe two. We've rarely seen him have three. We've rarely seen him have two. So I assume he keeps getting trotted out until they say enough, and then Riddick comes in and they realize he can't do it, and then maybe they just go back and forth until someone plays well. If you have Cam Talbot, I think you hold the fort, right? I wouldn't want to lose a guy who plays for one of the top teams in the NHL. I'd like to give him a little more time to try and balance out and find his game, but that's not at all a guarantee that he will.
Yeah. And one of the top teams in the NHL, it's that's starting to not become their moniker anymore as they keep losing and losing. So obviously, yes, that'll be a guy I'm gonna be curious to check back in on soon.
For,
Also, by the way,
to be
oh,
oh sorry, I was just gonna say to be fair, like in these what is it, 8 losses? Uh I'm just counting up quickly. Two, four, six of them have been by one goal,
right.
and four of them have been in overtime and shootouts.
Yeah,
So
so maybe
like
it's
I would
just
keep
bad
the and
luck.
yeah, yeah. So I think there's a bit of bad luck at play here too.
Yeah, maybe like mine gives a couple of them. I know they were winning, and then like in the last like minute they let in the tying goal and they lost in overtime, like that kind of thing. So that must be you get the jimmies a little bit. Maybe in the last minute the
The
players are gripping their sticks a little too
the
tight.
Jimmies. I've never had the Jimmies. I don't know what they feel like. I'm gonna you know what? I'm gonna go a step further, Elon. I am gonna come up with a bit of a hotter take or more.
Ooh,
It's not
I'm
that
ready.
hot. I'm gonna
Oh,
say buy low on Cam Talbot. I
waha,
definitely like. I don't know who's selling. You have Cam
yowza!
Talbot. Are you selling?
I wasn't planning to,
Yeah. Okay.
but
So good luck.
if someone
Like you
if
can
someone in my
try and
league
buy
wants to
low.
make me an if someone on my league wants to make me an offer, well, listen, I'll take someone potentially. That's good. Okay. I will mention it's been 39 games now for Kevin Fiala. Just reminding people, Kevin Fiala is a second half. I don't know how reliable this is. Maybe it's just been like random chance, but every season Fiala is better in the second half than the first half. So he hasn't been bad in the first half, but he has been below, point per game when the last couple of seasons he was above. I would be pretty confident in betting that he's going to end above. And I think it's going to be the classic second half Fiala effect. It's already maybe started. He's now got 6 points in his last 4 games. So I don't know. I don't know how actionable this is, but I'm just reminding people that Fiala generally does a lot better in the second half. My other point I have on LA is Matt Roy. That's all I wrote. But it's because it's like, why? Why is Matt Roy someone that is a thing now? And like, should we rush for him? So he's like was doing nothing, all season. And all of a sudden he's still like kind of not doing anything points wise. He's had a couple goals recently, but like all of a sudden the shots are crazy, the blocks are crazy. But it wasn't like that for most of the year. Is there like a reason? Like I see more ice time. Is this like a new thing now?
Is it? You know what? I don't have his game log in front of me. Do you see more ice time? Are you asking?
Yeah. No, I'm saying
Like,
he has more ice time in his last three
okay.
games. I'm curious, like why or like what? They're losing all these games. Stop giving. Maybe that's a reason to not. I'm not. I don't know why I'm against. I'm not against Matt Roy. I'm just like my opponent hasn't had him yet. I don't think, but like I wouldn't bank on this lasting. Maybe just because they keep losing. So maybe playing Matt Roy all this time for him to get all these blocks isn't working. I don't know. But like you
I
said,
don't
Brian,
know.
they're losing one
They're
goal games, so maybe that's not.
Yeah, yeah, they're barely losing. So I think overreading into this Kings hot streak could get someone in trouble. So don't do that. Matt Roy, Honestly, I find in free agency there aren't as many decent floor peripheral guys as there once were. And like some guys have come and gone this season as being that steady peripheral guy, like Romanov. I'm trying to date like David Savard. I'm trying to think of other guys I've streamed in because they
Gudas
had
has
a
been good this year.
well, he in a few random points lately too. I'm still mad at him because he blocked a shot with his face from David Perron with like 3 minutes left
Mhm.
last week, and that cost me my week. If the shot,
Oh
like
God.
if Gudas had been sane and moved his face out of the way, and this shot hit the anyway. You don't need to get too deep into it. So anyway, Matt Roy is one of a breed that like honestly don't see a whole lot of lately. So there you go. A lot of shorthanded
Okay.
time. That helps.
All right. So we've done 3 of the 5 teams for this section. How much time do we have left for our two final teams? Is it 12 again, like the last couple?
7.5 minutes.
7.5 minutes left?
Yep.
Oh no. Oh wait, that was after two teams with the last couple times that it was 12. So we're good. All right. 7.5 minutes for two teams. Let's go to Minnesota. So yeah, Philip Gustafsson is back. It did not go
Is he
well. Like
though?
it's really frustrating, right? Like someone you probably if you had him on your team, you like dropped someone to activate Gustafsson. You're like, oh, who do I drop? I like all the people on my team. Oh, okay, fine. I guess I'll drop like whoever. Maybe someone that then did get a goal yesterday, and in the meantime, you had 5 goals against on only 18 shots. Like Minnesota didn't play badly against Arizona in the 6-0 loss in terms of like they didn't let in a lot of shots. It's just Gustafsson. I mean, I didn't watch it, but like from the stats here, it looks like he biffed it. I'm seeing goals saved above average of negative 3.25. That's not good. So hopefully it's just him shaking off some rust. Like there was that rough game from Wallstead earlier in the week. Fleury hasn't been good. Minnesota, if they want to get back into things, they're going to need Gustafsson to be a lot better. Obviously, it'll also help though that Kirill Kaprizov is back. So that's nice. Kaprizov didn't get a point in this game. Obviously, they got shut out, but he did take what was it, 5 shots. So if you want to look at the lines, like Zuccarello, Kaprizov, and Marco Rossi was the line of the last game. They did lose 6-0 though, so probably not worth reading too much into the lines. Wouldn't be surprised if they try something out like differently in the next game. They also for a while were just going Hartman and Zuccarello and Kaprizov. I'm seeing, which is the classic. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what Minnesota does. Maybe it might be time to jump on like a Ryan Hartman if he's back with Kaprizov, and Minnesota does have another good schedule next week.
Yep. I'll just go with that. Not a great return, obviously, for Gustafsson. Like maybe he alternates with Flurry. Flurry wasn't that great in Gustafsson's absence either. And a hearty welcome back to Kirill Kaprizov, who, gosh, I missed him on my own fantasy team. And I think Minnesota missed them also, right? Or missed. Oh gosh. Oh, what am I doing? We're not editing this. I think Minnesota missed Kirill Kaprizov too. They have not scored a whole lot lately. I'm going back to their last 9 games, and Minnesota has scored just 15 goals. So if you've had anyone on Minnesota, that's hurt. Especially, I know there was a good schedule week in there. And let's hope that a returning Kaprizov can solve a chunk of that. He can't do it all himself, but can he?
I mean, they have some good other players. Yeah, hopefully Minnesota can turn things around now that they're healthy. Gustafsson maybe take some time to, get right like he was for a lot of the season. All right, let's go next to the Montreal Canadiens. First of all, like, not that this is so actionable because the Habs just really like to rotate all their goalies, but Montembeau's good, right? Like has 4 quality starts in his last 4 games, 909 save percentage. If he played more, I'd be interested, but he just doesn't, play. Like it's already been confirmed that Jake Allen's going to play tomorrow. But before that, though, Montembeau did get a couple games in a row earlier this week. So maybe the next time Montembeau starts, he would be worth grabbing, and maybe you could expect another 2 starts in a row. So I'm just throwing it out there. He looked really good against Edmonton, right? He stopped 39 of 41. Had to take an overtime loss, but definitely can't blame him. Also, you mentioned him actually when you were listing your list of like defensemen that are good for peripherals. But this David Savard like we need to mention him. If you're in a league that counts, your hits and blocks, you got to grab Savard because he's also getting these points. Kind of like you said about Gudas, right? He's got 3 points in his last 4 games to go along with like a solid 2, 3, well, let's say 1 or 2 hits a game and then like 3, 4, 5 blocks a game, even some shots. There was a 4 shot game. David Savard's doing it all. So I would definitely like he might be taken already in a lot of leagues. But yeah, he didn't start the season, right? He only started recently. He's up to 10 points in 20 games overall, which will be his highest pace ever if he keeps it up. So I'm not saying he will, but at least the peripherals are there.
Yeah, like lately. He gets a few blocks a game and then a hit and a shot, generally, and a half a point. But lately, the numbers are, well, I don't know. On the whole, like on average, they're the same. But lately, like there's some, it's bumpy, right? If you're going to stream in David Zavard, you can expect what you're hoping for. Like it's like a coin flip, I think, if you're going to get what you're hoping for. Montembeau, if Montreal was winning or trying to win, I imagine that Montembeau would be getting most starts here. And hey, I have talked a lot of S about Montembeau on the show the last couple years. No one is as surprised as I am that Montembeau appears to be an NHL goalie for the first time ever. Like, did a goalie improve? What's going on? This doesn't happen. But
That's an
20,
old thing. Do you still believe that goalies don't improve? Lots of
it's
goalies have improved, I feel
Elon, it
like.
seems very rare to me that a goalie really breaks the mold of who they've been after
I
enough
don't know.
games. And
Look
I,
at
I
Joey Daccord. I guess you're saying he hasn't played enough
no,
games,
yeah,
maybe?
not enough games. You come
I
up with an
guess.
example while I'm talking, and with
Okay,
whatever
I will.
residual time, we'll work through it. But Montembeau's played 20 games this season. Amongst goalies who have played at least as much, Montembeau ranks second in Delta Fenwick's save percentage. That's performance versus expected. Montembeau ranks fourth in 5-on-5 save percentage, and that list is actually like it's pretty crazy. All right, Hellebuck leads, then Decord, then Swayman, then Montembeau, then Ingram. Those are your 5-on-5 save percentage leaders, and that is a stat that I have used consistently over the life of the podcast to find the best goalie. Now, of course, we're talking like small samples for a lot, like Decord, Swayman, Montembeau, and Ingram are all playing like, yeah, like well, half to two-thirds of their game, so it's not a huge sample, but still, that's a pretty interesting list, and it also says something about the goalies that aren't there, right? Like they've had their stumbles. So this makes Montembeau, I think, a great streamer spot start, but unfortunately, it does look like he's in a pretty solid alternating routine in Montreal, and so that's the reason not to make a long-term commitment. But if he's starting, I want him.
Yeah. Quickly back to David Savard. I'd be curious to know. Let's say you could stream in a Montreal player, and like it could be a forward or a defenseman. I'm curious. In Cupful, would you go like Slavkovsky, who's like top line, top power play, but oftentimes gets like one fantasy point. If he doesn't get a point, he's not like taking shots or like hitting or whatever. Yeah, he's okay actually. Okay, one hit a game. But or would you go Savard for the guaranteed floor? I feel like that would be a close one for me.
Savard is pacing for more points than
Yeah,
Slavkovsky and also putting up more peripherals. So yeah, I think I'll it's crazy. Well, not really. I'll go David Savard. Also,
yeah.
Ben in the chat wants to know Montembeau versus Lion. I'll go Lion just for volume. For rates, I actually think Montembeau's like a better bet rest of season, and maybe I'm buying too much into a small sample, but like the small sample doesn't look sometimes small samples look like unsustainable. This one, I mean, I can't tell with goalies, really, but it's not coming from like amazing like short-handed play, which is the goalie way of being like unsustainably good. So yeah, I'll take Lion. But if you're in a league where you just need like save percentage and minimum starts you'll meet, then I think I will take Montembeau, although Lion
Mm,
will get you some more wins.
wins are good. Okay. So next, what have we done here? We've done Edmonton, Florida, LA, Minnesota, Montreal. Oh, that's
Time's
five.
up.
Guys, this has been a fun time in part one of the episode. Hope you've liked it. We've covered half the teams in the league, I
I
think, right?
just
Because we had oh,
yeah.
please.
No, well, while I'm catching my breath and we've just finished, I hope like I
I
I'm
hope it's
part of
good.
me is imagining listening to this and feeling like stressed and like rushed, like it's just like coming at me. So like the feedback, please. Like, is it good? Are we
No, we
stressing
need this in
anyone
our
out?
lives sometimes. You don't need to be stressed. Maybe you'd be stressed because you're like worried you have a burning question about like a Vancouver player.
No,
You're
but
like,
like
they're gonna have no time. They're gonna give like
no,
Vancouver
but
1 minute.
no, but if I'm just like relaxing, like I'm driving, is it like is the
That's never
is
been our
our
vibe.
drive to you're right. I guess not. Okay, well, I'm just
Okay.
hoping it's a regular level of intensity then. But if it's higher, I'd be interested to
Let
know.
us let us know if we suck. And then I guess we'll listen because we listen to I listen to pretty much all negative feedback. Oh, can I okay,
And only negative
Brian,
feedback.
can I so someone apparently gave us a review recently. I didn't even see it, but Brian told me that we got a review recently saying that we're holding back more than we used to because we don't want people to know like our secrets for Cupful. I'd love to know like you could write to me anonymously. Like I'm just curious like what gives you that impression. Like I feel always so stressed out and bad about like how I have to give up all of my plans. But I thought Brian and I made an oath to each other that we always are like we say everything and we don't like, oh, I'm not going to mention David Savard because he's in free agency and like I don't want anyone to grab him. But if someone thinks that that's the case, obviously then maybe if you think that, then probably a lot of people think that. So I would just love to have some like tangible examples of things I could be doing differently, because that's definitely not like my intention. I know for sure that's not Brian's intention. We're not like trying to like trick people by not giving our full opinions because we're trying to win our fantasy leagues. That'd be nuts.
It would be. And I do it sometimes. No, I'm joking. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like, I'd like to know like what the context of that comment was. Like, what do you think Elon and I would have said after,
Yeah.
like, in that episode that you were reviewing that we didn't?
And for sure, no judge. I'm not saying like let me know so I could, make fun of you, or so I can like, it's just I'm actually curious. Like I
Feedback,
would
just
love to
feedback.
actually get that feedback. Yeah.
How can
All
we
right.
better demonstrate our transparency and openness and commitment to you, the listener,
Yeah.
and the entity of the podcast versus our couple teams? By the way, if we are keeping secrets for our couple teams, we are doing you don't want those secrets based on the
Well,
performance.
hey,
So
hey,
thank
Brian.
us.
My team's turned around recently.
Hey, good job.
After this week, I'm going to be 7-7, and I
Me
am going
too.
in. Oh, we're good. And also, I'm second in points for. So it's like my record is a
Not
lot
me.
just like bad head to head luck. And I'm liking the direction my team is going in. So
Look
I still think
out.
I have a good chance at this thing.
All right. Well, I
Got
will listen to
Karlsson off the
all.
team.
Yeah. Oh, all the bad juju's off your team. It's working. All right.
Uh,
We should go to the we're gonna start losing time for our next
oh no. Oh
part
right, we
two.
do actually have real time. I'm just thinking like this time doesn't count now because we have like our
No,
like
this
this is a
counts.
no, it
I'm
doesn't.
subtracting it from the first 20 minutes.
Oh no. Now you're gonna
I'm
stress the
not.
listeners out. All right. See you all
Okay.
soon. Make sure you're subscribed to Keeping Carlson. You should already have part two available in your feed as per usual. If you're not subscribed, please do. It helps the show. We'd also love a 5-star review. Blah 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 blah. All right. Talk to you soon for part two. Bye. All right, so Brian,
Yeah. Oh, I was you good?
yep.
Yes, welcome everybody back to our second part two of this week's mega show on January 14th. I am Brian Com, and with me is my co-host Elon Dabrowski. We are, like I said, catching our breath, giving ourselves 20 minutes to cover 5 teams at a time. We've already fit in one bonus team. We've got one more bonus team to fit in. Go ahead and place your bets on who you think that team is going to be. Elon, I am ready. Like I've got the 20-minute timer ready to go. And you just
Start
tell
it.
me, yeah, you ready?
Yeah, do it.
Started.
Okay, let's go to the Nashville Predators now. I have one question for you, Brian. Last week, I was saying Gustav Nyquist, grab him, like any league where he's not rostered. Like, I don't think you're doing it right. And you were like, well, I'm actually in a league where he's in free agency still. And you were like, and then I was like, oh, I think you should grab him. You were like, well, who should I drop? And you brought up like Ricard Raquel as someone that maybe you, and then I was like, oh, that is kind of a tough one. Since then, by the way, today, practice lines came out for Pittsburgh, and Ricard Raquel isn't on the top power play. Brian Russ has taken his spot. Gustav Nyquist, in the meantime, continues to produce points in every single game. He actually didn't get any points in the last game versus the Islanders. That was his first time in like 12 games that Gustav Nyquist didn't get a point. Did you grab him yet? Or is he still in free agency? Did someone else take him?
I think someone listened to the show and took him. He was gone pretty
Smart.
quick, and I was stuck. Like my lineup was frozen from some IR business. Like I had some ineligible guys. So yeah, I missed him. I feel bad. Nyquist has been really just fantastic.
Oh, we should have held back and not shared that Nyquist was on a hot streak so that you could do better
Oh,
in your fantasy league.
now you're thinking.
All right, so Forsberg, Nyquist, O'Reilly. That line is great. There's not much to say. All the other lines, man, like every once in a while someone does something. Did you know? I didn't even notice this, Brian. It was just bad. Like I like live fantasy hockey, and I didn't realize Colton Sissons has been on the top power play for a little while now. So yeah, with those three and Roman Josi, and for somehow, yeah, Colton Sissons for like 6, 7, 8, 10. Like you look at the game log, like a lot of the season. I didn't know. But I don't know if you want a top power play guy in Nashville. There you go. He's only got 5 power play points. I don't know. Maybe he'll luck into a couple more. Like if we're saying Montour will, maybe Colton Sissons will also.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a completely fair comparison to draw. Like I would just say Colton Sissons is not like your offensive stud who's going to be doing a lot. I think being on the power play has helped Sissons with his shot totals. But yeah, he's been on the power play for the last 8 games, the top power play, sorry, and has no power play points to show for it. Ironically enough, he saw oh sorry. Nope. I don't know if you're editing. Sorry. Sissons has been on the top power play, yeah, like you said, for a while, and he's had like he had a good stretch, and now he's been quiet. So we'll see if those points come back. I'm not saying they can't. Like we've seen guys like I always say Stefan Nason, right? We've seen Alex Chiasson. We've seen guys produce on the power play who don't necessarily produce at 5-on-5. So yeah, in a deep enough league or fourth stream, as my opponent did in a couple this week, absolutely, Colton Sissons should be on your list.
Yeah, and if your league counts hits, then you get a bonus. You got a top power play guy who also hits a ton. So yeah, so I had to mention it. I feel bad now that I didn't mention it earlier. I promise I wasn't holding it back. Okay, I'll stop making that reference. Let's go next to the New Jersey Devils. Brian, like Vitek Vanacek, like really sucks, right? Like every single game now, I go on Twitter after the game, and it's just tweets about how Vitek Vanacek has just fallen further down the list of goalies this season in terms of goals saved above expected. After his last game, he was like officially last. Like he even passed Samsonov after he let in 4 goals against the Lightning on only 20 shots. This was an overtime loss that the Devils probably should have won if they had a reasonable goalie. And the thing is, they do have a reasonable goalie. His name is Nico Dawes. Nico Dawes is coming off a win against a very high-powered Florida Panthers team. I think this is it. Like, I know, like we've been chatting in our group chat, and like Jeremy was suggesting, like that New Jersey is one of those teams that maybe likes to still go back to their crappy goalies even when they're crappy. But how can this not be the tipping point now? Like, I think Dawes is getting the next game, and I think it might be over for Vitek Vanacek. I'm surprised he wasn't waived after that last game because that was like he just continues to just be absolutely horrid according to what I see on Twitter. And I think Nico Dawes has been great. I don't see why they don't just waive Vanacek. No one will claim him. Roll Dawes and Schmid for a bit. Can't get worse. Maybe Vanacek finds his game in the minors, like Antti Ranta. Maybe I don't know. But that, anyways, I would grab Nico Dawes. I think now we have to compare Nico Dawes to these guys we've talked about earlier in the episode. Like I think Alex Lyon, I would take ahead just because he's guaranteed the starts. But like your Ingrams and your whoever Montembeau, Dawes is right up there. I think.
Yeah, I'd say Dawes might be like in the Ranta area where you've got a player who's on a good team who is unproven, right? Like he hasn't shown that he can do well for a long period of time, and Ronta has, but just not recently. So like definitely you can move on from Vanacek, and if the Devils waived him, that would have made it easier for you. But honestly, don't wait, because I think even if Dawes can't hold the job, I don't see Vanacek earning it back. Like he just seems incapable of it. And if he does, it will be like a surprise. But like, and you could add him then. But I don't think you need to hold him and wait, thinking you have like the incumbent or presumptive Devils starter. I think you go with Nico Dawes if you want to do like a little spec ad action and see if he can play well for a consistent amount of time, which he hasn't in the past, but he also hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities to do that. So Dawes would be somewhere around like maybe between Ronta and Ingram, I'd say. Like, yeah, in that category.
Yeah, high upside for sure because he could end up just being the starter, maybe volume starter on like a really great team. But obviously, it's so hard to predict. He has
Huge
to hold
upside
up.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also on the Devils, I'll mention, if you need a stream, Devils have a good schedule to start next week. You maybe want to look at like an Eric Haula or Michael McLeod, both on hot streaks, both playing with good players. Haula's with Heischer and Mercer, McLeod centering Bratt and Toffoli. So I think I might have mentioned them in the matchup maximizer, but just want to make sure that it's clear. Those are guys that I would definitely be jumping on if I'm trying to, get more starts from players who I think have a decent chance of getting points. Brian, let's move on to the Islanders. I actually don't have that much to say about the Islanders because they had some new interesting lines with Casey Cizikas out. They moved Barzal back to center, a different line, like away from Bo Horvat. But in this last game versus Nashville, it looks like they ended up changing back. Like, a lot of the game it was back to just Lee Horvat, and it was Oliver Wallstrom actually there, not. Okay, so wait, sorry. Okay. But then it seems like the line started shifting back in the last game. So I'm not sure exactly how things shook out. I was into like on matchup maximizer. I was saying that Kyle Palmieri interests me. If he's now on a line with Barzal, who's like red hot and still on the top power play, that's something that interests me. The vibe on Twitter is Palmieri had a bad game. So I don't know if things are going to change. I'm definitely watching because next week the Islanders have a great schedule, 4 games, and they're skipping out on that busy Saturday. So I grabbed Palmieri before that game yesterday just to bench him yesterday, just because I was like looking forward to next week. It's Monday, Tuesday, right? So I'm not going to drop now for a guy playing Monday, Tuesday, but obviously a little less excited about him now that I see that they already started shaking up those lines.
The Palmieri cardio session wasn't great. And there's no other line, right? That really seems worthwhile. Like I'm seeing, I don't know, even like after Barzell, Horvat, and Lee, the next line I see is like I wonder if the next line I look at is Brock Nelson, Hudson Fashing, and Pierre Engvall. I know that's silly. Like I think I would still rather take a chance on Kyle Palmieri versus Fashing and Engvall, who like have done absolutely nothing for more than the single game that Palmieri has. Yeah, like I think he's a good early week stream. I know the recent performance where he did absolutely nothing, didn't show up on the score sheet, is a damper on things, but and the line change too. What am I trying to say here, Elon? Like, good for the schedule. Good to add another couple games depending on the depth of your league, but also make sure there's not anyone better. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and look at the lines. Definitely game day tweets. I just deployed an improvement to game day tweets over the weekend. I'm not sure if anyone noticed. It should your pages should load faster now. Your tweets should load faster.
Now that's
So
what I call good deployment.
hey, hey. Hoi, hoi. Okay. Let's go to the Rangers now. They played today. I didn't have a good response there. The Rangers won, and it was 2-1 against Washington. I guess the big news here, Capo Caco back in the lineup after missing a lot of time. I mean, yeah, he went right to the top line. Like he played with Zibanejad and Kreider, and then obviously Lafreniere stuck with Panarin and Trocheck. So I guess bad news for your Blake Wheelers or whatever. Caco didn't do much. I'm not like so excited about him, but if he's playing with Zibanejad and Kreider, there's a decent chance he'll get an assist now and then he's supposed to. I don't know if this pedigree is like gone at this point. Like I know, like at some point we have to stop saying, "Well, this is a guy with a high pedigree," so eventually he'll do something. It took Lafreniere a while, and now he's doing really well this year. So maybe it'll happen soon for Kako. But yeah, welcome back. And if you're in a super deep league and top liners don't grow on trees, maybe you take a look at him.
Yeah, yeah, you could like I would try, like give him a game. I don't know, but I'm really not expecting much. Would I try him over Palmieri? I don't even think so. So I'll put that out there. Lafreniere, we've talked about how he's been doing well. Overall on the season, it's like a 51 point pace, which isn't awesome, but it is like better than we've seen from him ever. In his last 12 games, Lafreniere has 2 goals and 7 assists for 9 points. And he's also been averaging over 3 shots per game, which is great for Lafreniere, only scoring on 5%. So honestly, there's a chance that Lafreniere deserves better over his last 12 when he has 9 points. And even that is decent enough. So good for Lafreniere. And I think this is pointless to mention, but Blake Wheeler, is one of the guys who probably loses out from Kako's return. He's playing with Benino and Will Coyle. Kyle?
I think it's Cooley. I've been
Cooley.
told
Thanks. And Blake Wheeler has not put up a point in his last 7 games,
he's
and
done.
he's barely put up a shot. So there's that.
I don't think anyone has Wheeler. I'd be shocked. Okay, so Brian, I think that's 4 of the 5. How much time do we have left here?
I don't think that's 4 of the 5, and we have 9.5 minutes.
We've done Nashville, New Jersey, Islanders, and Rangers now.
Oh my
So
goodness.
we're gonna definitely hit our bonus team. Let's go to your Ottawa Senators. Ba, ba, da, da, da. Da, 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 da. We have time for the whole song. Da, 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 da,
Starting
da.
in net tonight.
Go, Sets, go. Okay, starting in net is someone who stinks because
Yeah, it's hard to
oh
be
my God.
excited.
So not Philip Forsberg, the other Forsberg, Anton Forsberg is hurt, which is too bad because that I guess means they have to lean on Eunice Corpusalo, who is starting to approach Vanacek territory, except he'd be a lot harder to waive with that contract. Probably no one would claim it. They probably could waive Corpusalo actually if they wanted to. The Sens finally broke their losing streak against the worst team in the league, the San Jose Sharks. No thanks to Corpusalo, who only had 18 shots against and was only able to stop 14 of them. 4 goals against, a 778 save percentage to get himself the undeserved win. I'm being really mean, but like not great. I think you got. Did you even get positive points if you played Corpusalo in Cupful? Even
Yeah,
you got 3
barely.
points for a win, barely.
Because
Okay,
of the win that swung him from like 1.5 points negative to 1.5 points positive.
I see. So I guess my question is, with Forsberg injured and Corpusalo doing so badly, like it's unlikely, but like they do have this guy Matt Sogard who's supposed to be a good prospect. He's now the backup. Like maybe he's like could be a Nico. Like Nico Dawes has actually come up and had good games. So like Sogard still has a couple steps to clear to get to that point. But if Sogard at some point Sogard's going to play, if he has a good game, why wouldn't Ottawa give him the next game, right? So I'm not saying it's like a sure thing, but I think next time Sogard, like when Sogard gets his first start of the season, I'd be interested in streaming him in as like a low probability but still potential guy who could get more volume in the future assuming he does well in that first game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think the Nico Dawes comparison is decent, except he might not be on as good a team, right? That's the distinction. I'm looking at Ottawa at even strength, and I'm looking there at their expected goal differential, and they're like bottom 10 in the league. So, and like they've had a coaching change, although things have not gone necessarily up since the coaching change either. I don't know. You know what? I don't know what Ottawa wants right now, to be honest. They are dead last in the East. That is also partially because they've played like 4 to 5 fewer games than most other teams. But like they have 5 games in hand on Columbus and are 5 points back. They have 5 games in hand on Buffalo and are 10 points back. So realistically, they could pass Columbus with their games in hand, but that's it. They're ahead of Chicago, they're ahead of San Jose and Anaheim, and that's it. So I don't know, like Elon, can I like I don't want to take a victory lap here, but and it's not, but I feel like there was a lot of uh, where were you with Corpusalo on the start? Like I feel like this is just a moment where I could say that I didn't trust Corpusalo and I was right.
Yeah, but you also didn't trust like whatever Cam Talbot. Like I feel like goalies are
Yeah,
hard to predict, and like I think the Sens blew it, and I think I agreed at the time that like this seems like a very unnecessary risk to take, like to spend so much money for so long on a guy who like could be good. Like I was kind of like he might be good, he might not be. Like that doesn't mean I think it was like a smart contract to sign. And definitely
yeah,
he's fallen into like very bad, but I still was interested in drafting him in like 1 year leagues. Like I wouldn't have touched him in a dynasty league where I was stuck with his contract.
yeah.
But I was interested in like getting the Sens starter, but
Yeah,
didn't work out.
in a 1 year, I was also because the Sens were supposed to be good again, right? This is like the second or third year now that they were supposed to be good and they're not. So like honestly, I feel like at this point, Ottawa like might is better served looking for a lottery situation. I This all goes back to Mad Sogard, right? Who you mentioned in 920 save percentage in Belleville so far this season, 8-5-2 record in 16 appearances. So that's impressive. He has been in the NHL before, right? He played a handful of games last year because of injuries, and he had just an 889 save percentage and looked pretty shaky. So we'll see how much more he can do. And if he plays well, Elon, there's no reason to not keep playing him, right? It's not like you need Corpusalo in there and getting reps.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, that was
we'll
like
see.
one day I want to find out who Ottawa was bidding against for Corpusalo.
Yeah, who
Like I'm
needed
guessing no one.
and also it's like it's just so frustrating. I'm sure if you're a Sens fan, like they could have had like Joey Decord signed like a 2 year deal or whatever it is for like a mil or two. I don't even know, but like some small contract. There's all these goalies that are doing so well. Like Talbot, how much did he sign for? But obviously Ottawa wasn't going to bring him back. But like I would have rather had Talbot for 1 year at a million. So anyway, they took a big swing and it's a swing and a miss so far. Maybe it'll turn out to be like who was it? Bobrovsky had a couple rough years in Florida and then now is like crushing it. Of course, Bobrovsky had a bit of a better track record than
Yeah,
Korpisalo.
he had a track record.
No
Period.
Vesnas for
Right now,
Korpisalo. Yeah,
this is feeling a lot like Martin Gerber in Ottawa.
sure.
That's
Uh,
the that's the feel I get.
Josh Norris, by the way, is hurt. I don't know for how long. Josh Norris went from like a 5 game goal streak to being pointless in 8 games. So that must have been frustrating. A
And
real
now he's
topsy turvy
injured.
ride. Now he's injured.
And
So
I think we said on the last show, right? Like that he didn't seem to quite be playing to full capacity. So I wonder if he's playing injured and like, it's time. It's time to just
yeah.
take a break. Yeah.
Well, he definitely did like take a like he like flipped over on a
Yes, there
play
was.
and then didn't come back after that. But like that might have aggravated an existing injury. By the way,
Let's go with that.
Tarasenko was dropped in some leagues. I think Shams was saying that he was dropped, but then he added him back. Maybe it was Shams who like dropped him and then added him back. Anyways, Tarasenko's looking good right now. He's got 4 points in his last 3 games. Now he's on a line with Batherson and Stutzla in the last game, maybe because of Norris is out. So definitely if Tarasenko's been dropped in your league, I would, he's still not on the top power play. It's like Giroux, Kachuk, Batherson, Stutzla, and Shabbat, but I'd still be interested in Tarasenko because of his newfound even strength deployment. So just wanted to mention that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember Shams was asking like, should I add like yes, add Tarasenko. Like if he's available and scoring, I wish I would absolutely. I have a lot of guys. I have a lot of crummy guys on my roster right now. I'm just in one of those moments, and I would be thrilled to have Tarasenko. Not that I would be thrilled to have him all season long because he's run hot and cold, but for the moment, good deployment, good production. Yep.
Yeah. How's our time? Can we do a bonus team or did we blow it all on Ottawa?
2 minutes, 2.5 minutes.
Let's go to Philly. So they made the big trade, right? They've got Jamie Drysdale now on the team, and he's jumped right to the top power play. Or I know that still Igor Zemula has been getting some decent power play time. It looks like they're just like kind of running to. In the last game, it was like pretty even. I'm seeing. Um, actually, wait a second. Am I even seeing? Did Drysdale not play in the last game? Now I'm not even
I
seeing
don't see
Drysdale
him
on
on
the
the depth
score sheet.
chart. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what's going on, but let me go to. I was going to Philly's last game lines page. Let me go to the Jamie Drysdale page now. Sorry, we're really blowing it with the time now. But Drysdale played. Oh yeah, he didn't play in the last game, but he did play before that 2 games for Philly, and he had 2 assists, like an assist in each game, and he was around 40% power play time. So I guess not top power play yet. I'm still more interested in him now on Philly than I was on Anaheim. I think he has a better shot at more power play time. I don't think Zamula has it entrenched for sure. Just like, Cam York didn't, like Ristolainen didn't. And also, by the way, Travis Sanheim, Brian, who was like the darling to start the year, he's pointless in 8 games. Still like some peripherals, but in a league like the Cupful, pretty deep. Can we drop Travis Sanheim at this point? I'd say like I would want Drysdale over Sanheim, and I think I would want a lot of my current free agent defensemen, not a lot, but a few of my free agent defensemen over Sanheim. So where are you on Travis at this point?
Yeah, I don't think Sandheim has like a whole lot to offer. And it's been a while since he has. Um, you know, 8 games without he has 1 point in his last 10 games. His previous 10 games before that were productive for Sandheim, but his previous 10 games before that weren't. And his previous 10 games before that were. So I don't know, either Sandheim is about to start a new run of production in the next 10 games, or he's not. And I think it's more likely that Sandheim is not. He also, like that power play deployment that helped him have some of those productive stretches, is almost certainly gone.
Yeah.
He did have like his greatest share of power play time on Saturday against
I'm seeing that,
Winnipeg.
by the way, Drysdale was ill. So that's
Okay.
what was his deal. So yeah, like
Yeah.
that's why Sandheim got more power play time.
Yeah. And that's the first time in a long time that Sandheim has had like any kind of really meaningful share. So all of that put together, I it doesn't even like, I'd rather go David Savard or Matt Roy. Like I'd rather stream in a higher floor peripheral producer than Travis Sanheim. You're muted.
I'll just mention quickly also Sam Ersson. We got to talk about him coming off a huge shutout over the Winnipeg Jets, who were
We
just
should
crushing
talk
it for.
about him in the next part because the timer just went.
Oh, okay. We'll take a break. Wow, harsh. This is a bonus team. I thought you'd give me a little bit of
Go,
leeway to
keep
get to the bonus
going to the
team.
break.
It's break time. We'll be back in a second. Listen, keeping Karlsson. Okay, we are back to do the second half of our bonus team Philly, and then we'll take 20 minutes to cover the next 5 teams. Brian, yeah, let's talk about Sam Ersson, who just shut out the Winnipeg Jets, 35 saves. See, like Carter Hart did get 2 starts in a row against Calgary and Pittsburgh, but that last game against Pittsburgh that Hart had before Ersson got back in the net, like it wasn't that great. He let in 4 goals. Then Ersson came in, had a good game against Montreal, got the win. Then Carter Hart was good, got the win against Minnesota. Now Ersson just shut out Winnipeg. I think we're at a point where it's 50-50. Like Ersson's really good. I think Carter Hart is not a starter. I think he's an Ingram, maybe, or maybe Ersson's the Ingram. I don't even know. Well, they're both like, I guess that wouldn't be fair to call Hart the Ave Melko. So Hart's having a good season, but I'm a bit bummed. I have Hart on my fantasy team, and I think I may have just lost my starting goalie. I think now I have a tandem guy. Philly plays 4 times next week, so I guess I'll hang on, get my 2 starts. But if it's going to be like this and there's a risk of only getting 1 start in a week from Carter Hart, bummer. I'm not sure what to do about it, but Sam Ersson doesn't seem to be going away, unfortunately, for us Carter Hart managers.
Yeah, Harrison has been like, I guess, surprising, right? Because like we'd seen a little bit of him, and but nothing to write home about. And all of a sudden, the 24-year-old former fifth round pick back in 2018, 143rd overall, picked by the Flyers, is having a good NHL season, better than he's had like even in the minors. So we'll see if Erson can keep this up enough to sort of alternate with Hart. I have a feeling it's going to be like 2 Hart, 1 Erson is where we're headed, and then one of the Erson's more likely to slip up and Hart will take over. But for the moment, if you have Carter Hart, you are it looks like you're losing a few starts that you might have expected to have.
Okay, let's go now to the Pittsburgh Penguins. So yeah, first of all, Riley Smith is hurt. He hasn't really been much of a factor, so nothing that we need to worry about too much in terms of like implications. The main implication or the main like thing going on now is like I said, there's in the last game, Pittsburgh changed up their power play, and it looks like in practice today they've kept it going. Brian Rust getting the spot instead of Raquel with Crosby, Malkin, Gensel, and Eric Carlson. So if that holds, obviously not so exciting for Raquel managers, though Raquel's still skating with Crosby and Gensel at even strength, which is good. But yeah, now it's two pointless games in a row for Raquel after that awesome run. And obviously it'll be a little bit harder for him to get going again. I mean, two pointless games is nothing, but again, like losing top power play isn't great. Brian Rust, on the other hand, had a goal and an assist versus in the 3-2 loss. I did like that TV show Lost. But I would say that Brian Rust becomes more interesting because he was like kind of cold before that game. If you're in shallow league and he was dropped, I would grab him. And yeah, I guess we'll have to see if this becomes like a back and forth thing or if Rust has now taken the job back. Because remember, Rust had it most of the season. It was just like Raquel came back from injury and took it and was looking good, and then Rust came back from his injury, and so whatever Raquel held it for a little bit. I'll be interested to see in a week if Rust is still there or not. I think if I had to bet, I would say Rust probably holds it, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, same. And Rust has been like consistently productive since he's come back. Point every other game at least, and shots have come too, and a hit every game as well. So those are all good reasons to like Brian Rust, especially now that he seems like he could be. Yeah, he could be approaching top power play deployment. So something to keep. I mean, we said this on the last show, right? Like Raquel at some point will fade. Rust like they can be easily interchangeable, and so here it is. So if you have Raquel, just keep an eye to make sure you're not snoozing with Raquel on your roster. Because just because he's on the top line with Crosby and Gensel doesn't necessarily guarantee that he's rosterable, as we have seen for a bunch of this season.
Okay, yeah. So next up, Brian, let's go to the San Jose Sharks, who recently lost to the Ottawa Senators to help them break out of their cold streak, like I said. But there are a couple guys in San Jose that I'm really like. I still can't believe that Mikhail Granlund is like he was like the laughing stock last year on Pittsburgh. Like people were like, this guy doesn't even look like an NHLer. He goes as like a cap dump, I guess, to the Sharks. He's having an incredible season. He had an assist against Ottawa, his fourth game in a row where he's pointed. We're up to 29 points in 36 games for Mikhail Granlund. That's a 66 point pace. He once was like this, right? Like back in, and not like so long ago, but I guess like 8 years ago now. Man, 2017, 18 is a really long time ago now. It's 2024. Time has flown. But yeah, Granlund looks like he's back to his 24, 23-year-old self this season. He's not on a great team, but I think like, you want Hurdle. And maybe next you want Mikhail Granlund, and I added him in Cupful to start this week just because I had the space for him. I think I'm holding. Well, San Jose plays Monday, Tuesday next week, so and then not again till Saturday. So I'm curious to see how I'll be feeling about him after those first two games. But I'm pretty happy with the returns so far, and I'm surprised he's kept it up. But I guess I'll watch. And also, I guess the big intrigue is that Logan Couture is apparently going to be back soon. Normally, Couture centers the second line. It's been Granlund centering that second line. Is Granlund going to go to be the line three center when he's having a 66 point pace season? Maybe he goes to the wing. Does Couture go to the wing? So that'll be something interesting to follow when he finally comes back.
Yeah, I would look out for Couture's return to sort of bust Granlund's bubble. In the meantime, like I'm looking at his numbers, they seem like reasonably sustainable. He's taken on like a more of like a shooting role on the power play, except he still barely registers a shot. Like that, at least lately, barely registering a shot. Like Granlund has points in his last three assists in his last three games and just one single shot over the court over that span. So I mean, I'm cutting, and right before that he had a four-shot game. So seems like sometimes there's some volume, but yeah, like I don't know, Elon. He seems like yeah, like you have Granlund if you streamed him in. I know it's hard to let go. He doesn't seem like he's hard to look away from. He is. I'm not sure where exactly to go with this. I would also really want to be careful. Like it's not like Couture is gonna necessarily bump Granlund on the top unit. Like there's also Fabian Zetterlund and William Eklund there who are
Oh
doing
no, I would say, if I may, like I wasn't talking about power play. I think Granlund should be pretty entrenched on that top power play with the
yeah,
season he's having. I think it's more
yeah,
just if he's a third line center.
yeah. Yeah, well, Couture could come and improve that power play. And like Granlund's been successful there. He's got a point every 4 games on the power play. That's like a 20 power play point pace for
Mm,
Granlund. So that's good. Uh, I think there's a decent, I don't know, Elon. Like I could see Couture, um, you know, lining up with Barabanov and like LeBanc or Hoffman. Like there's enough wingers that, the Sharks can have like 2 second lines or two
I
third
see.
lines,
Right,
right? So maybe
exactly.
Granlund doesn't get bumped, but maybe his line gets, maybe he plays some like lower minutes.
We'll
Yeah.
have to see. We'll wait and see.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll be interesting. Okay, let's go to the Seattle Kraken coming off a huge 7-4 win over Columbus. I mean, huge in terms of the number of goals they scored. Not like it was a wow, you beat the Blue Jackets. We've got a new, it's like just every week, we have a new class of Kraken who are on hot streaks. The old one's out, new one's in. Now it's Yanni Gourde all of a sudden, who has 6 points in his last 6 games. Before that, he was pointless in, I'm counting here, five, and then he had an assist, and then like pointless in like eight. So I have to ask. I know your answer. Is Yanni Gourde is something different now? Is Yanni Gourde now someone you jump on, or is this just like the next Kraken guy to go on a hot streak and that'll end soon?
Yeah, I think that's it. Like someone asked on our Discord server, like, is there any chance that this is any different from all the other Yanni Gourde runs? And yeah, I truly don't think so. So,
Beniers is injured for what it's worth. Maybe that means
yeah,
Gourde has a more like important
but
role.
Beniers has been injured before, and Gourde hasn't done a whole
Yeah.
lot.
Gourde
Yeah,
playing with Bjorkstrand and Tolvanen. That is like their clear like top two wingers, I think, at this point. I'm like a little interested in Gourde for now if he's gonna stick with Bjorkstrand and Tolvanen. But not that
he
interested. He's still not getting
Gourde.
power play time.
Yeah, and like his shots are decent, so if you wanted to try him out, you could. Like that's sort of and his hits too. So if that helps you, then that's a reason to see if Cord can help you. And like in thin leagues, like yeah, go ahead and go for it. But if you're looking for the next big thing, I feel like it's not going to be Cord. But I also, by the way, I'm just gonna throw in Jared McCann, who I also don't know that he's going to be the next big thing. But after a whole lot of nothing, he had a great game against Columbus. 2 goals and an assist, four
Hmm.
shots, a power play point. Return to form for him. 63% share of Seattle's power play time. So he's now pointed in 2 consecutive games, which matches his second longest point streak of the season. He had one 3 game point streak this year. So we'll see if he can keep that. Like honestly, I'm more watching McCann than I am Yanni Gourde right now.
Okay. I'm also into Bjorkstrand. I don't need to go. Bjorkstrand's on a nice run.
Yeah,
Nice to see him
that's
bouncing back.
established. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll also mention nothing. Maybe it's established at this point. I asked you before about like Stuart Skinner and how he would rank if we were doing a midseason Schmore goalies board. We have to also talk about Joey Daccord, who just continues. He's got now 8 straight quality starts, 8 wins in his last 8 games. Like Daccord is crushing it. He actually didn't have such a great game, I guess, against Columbus, but I imagine it's like score effects, just a bonkers game. He still pulled out the win, even though he let in 4 goals. I think like yeah, like Decord would have to be pretty high, right? He's a super high. I mean, I guess at some point, what's his name? Grubauer will come back, but like we don't know when. And also, why would they even like play him? Like he stunk. Like I feel like Joey Decord might be in the Alex Lyon. Like I think he is, not maybe. I think Decord and Lyon are actually a good comparison. Like guys playing every single game, doing well. Like Decord even doing better than Lyon. So
Yeah.
he's got to be like way up there in terms of like becoming one of those valuable goalies in fantasy, which is wild.
Yeah, I'll put the cord above Lion and like approaching Stuart Skinner territory, right? Because he's on a team that's winning like nobody's business and is playing incredibly in that stretch. You've got to go back to December 10th. That's 13 games ago to find Accord's last regulation loss. And including that regulation loss where he stopped 23 of 25. So like that's still a very good like his team let him down. He had a 920 save percentage. The run support wasn't there. Decord has a 949 save percentage. That's crazy. And he's only given up 21 goals over 13 games. So, yes, I already mentioned where he ranks in 5-on-5 save percentage, too. Also, great numbers for Delta Fenwick save percentage. So, there's nothing left to say except that's a little bit of Joey Decord appreciation.
Yeah, like I don't think he's someone you're like selling high on, to be honest. I think this could
No,
definitely like
no,
I mean
like you
the,
said, when you
yeah.
said like what's his name, like Grubauer, like that's it. That's it. Grubauer is what's his name. Like Seattle has a starter. We've never seen them give the reins to a goalie, right? And we'll see if when Grubauer comes back, if they try and go back to like a tandem, like a one on one off. But I wouldn't mess with what's happening. Although, like
for
Seattle,
sure.
I guess has some room to play with if they want Grubauer to come back in the standings and be like, okay, let's see if we can. But for now, Joey, just enjoy it, right? Joey Decord, and when Grubauer comes back, why would Grubauer do any different than he has,
Yeah,
right?
I'm with
Yeah.
you. Unless he's like really taking this vacation to get his head together, like we see sometimes. All right, let's go do the St. Louis Blues. I guess the big news here is Justin Falk is back. He was a guy who was drafted pretty high in Cupful, like he had a good season last year, good peripherals. 50, like, he had 50 points last year. This year it's not going as well for Justin Falk, only pacing for 39. He came back from his injury, like he hadn't played since the end of December. Played yesterday against Boston. No power play time, no points, no shots, just a hit. Like he played 18 minutes. It's not like he was getting super used. And I guess like he's used to playing more, but still like not a great return. But I guess maybe you just like forgive that. First of all, it was against Boston. And second of all, it's like his first game back from injury. But I'm curious to see what Falk will do. Is he like do you see him as a buy low? Like he was taking at least decent shots earlier. Is now a good time to try to get him on the cheap, or maybe is he just like back to sort of not being especially interesting? He's had a couple good seasons in a row now, before being like irrelevant for a while. Like before that, he was irrelevant for a few years. I wonder if is he back to old Justin Falk, or is this just a good chance to jump on a guy?
If you have Travis Sanheim, you could make that swap, right? I think that's what you're looking at here, in adding Justin Falk, who, yeah, has been okay this season, but inconsistently so, and not like far from a long shot. He had that really great stretch, Falk, where he had a stretch where in 6 games he had five or more shots 4 times, and that was in early December. Then he played a bunch more games, had some 4-shot games, had some 1-shot games. When I'm talking about shots for defensemen, that's because like this is the most likely source of value you're likely to see. One thing Falk does do this year is hit and block, or he continues to do this year. So, compared to some of the guys who we've talked about, who like even like Adam Boqvist, right? These guys who are not doing a whole, if they don't help you on the score sheet, they don't help you at all, or they help you a little on the score sheet but do nothing else. I think Falk is still like if you're looking for D, I think if you're happy with your situation, don't go running for Falk. But if you're not happy with your situation and Falk was dropped at some point while he was injured, you could add him for a game or two, see what happens.
Yeah, I'm with you. How are we doing? We've done 4 teams now, aside from our bonus team. How much time left?
5.5.
Oh, we're doing good here. We'll maybe take an early break. But yeah, let's go to Tampa Bay now. And really, like, what do you talk about with Tampa Bay? In that game against Anaheim on Saturday, where they crushed them, Tampa went back to stacking the top line. Always no fun for fantasy, I guess. If they put Kucherov, Stamkos, Point together. I guess it's fun if you have those guys. They're just having incredible seasons. But then your Nick Paul types. Nick Paul's still on the top power play, but he's been pretty cold lately. Only 1 point in his last 4 games. He did have an assist in this last game, not even from the power play, from his line with who was it? Anthony Cirelli and Brandon Hagel. Hagel, by the way, who you would think also shouldn't be doing that well because he's not like playing with these guys at even strength and isn't even on the top power play. He's on a bit of a run. He scored a goal. I guess he scored that goal that Paul assist on. And now we're at 5 points in 5 games for Brandon Hagel. 35 points in 44 games on the year, which actually matches his pace now from last year. He's pacing for 65. Do you think come the end of the year, are we going to be higher than last year or lower than last year? Which also, I guess, higher than where he is now or lower in terms of his. Is he going to be higher or lower than 65 points? I guess is my question for Hagel.
I'm gonna lean lower if that power play time doesn't come back. And it's not like Hickle only had 13 power play points in 81 games last season. But he also spent more time at 5-on-5 with, better line mates than Sorelli and Paul. So that's why I'm gonna downgrade Hagel from that 65 points. Also, like this recent run where, he appears like he's doing well, 3 goals on 13 shots. So that's like a 25% shooting percentage, which isn't something he can sustain. And like it's a small sample, and I hate to nitpick and just say anytime a guy's hot, he's scoring on more shots than he should, because that's what happens, right? The idea is how likely is it that he can move beyond that and continue having opportunities, and I'm just not seeing a whole lot of reason. So if you still have Hagel, here, Elon, you know what? I would cash out on Hagel and I would trade him for Casey Middlestat if you could. How about that?
Wait, which one do you want between the two?
I would take Middlestat over Hagel.
Yeah, I think me too.
Okay.
By the way, should I mention how Nikita Kucherov? I mean, I guess I mentioned him every week. He has 5 points in his last 2 games. Up to now, he's now pacing for 137. He's so good. He's only 30. He can still do this for a while. He's a
Yeah,
stud.
he's amazing.
All right. Let's yeah, that's it. That's five. So let's take our final break and then we'll knock out not knock out, we'll do a in-depth dive for a Toronto, Vancouver, Vegas, Washington, and Winnipeg to close this baby out. So
We
we'll be
will
back in just a sec.
respectfully, oh yeah, I was just gonna say we will respectfully cover all teams.
Of course. Well, yeah, we've got
Yeah,
a lot to say about these guys, including the Leafs next, who are playing right now, and not bad for Samsonov. He's pulling a Ranta. So we'll talk about him in just a second. Listen to Keeping Carlson. Okay, Brian, we are back. Final stretch, 5 teams to go. We've done our bonus teams. We got 20 minutes to cover 5 teams. If history is telling us the correct data, then we should be fine. Let's see how this goes. Yeah, like I said, Samsonov finally getting his start. He got called back up. Toronto has this back to back. By the way, Martin Jones took a loss yesterday. Samsonov today. I mean, the game's not over yet. We have 10 minutes left in the third. It's 2-2. I guess Samsonov hasn't been like incredible. It was 21 shots against, stopped 19. It's 2-2. We'll see how this game shakes out. But yeah, so far not so bad. Maybe the Martin Jones and Samsonov could go back to sort of splitting. I don't think like I'm not gonna like jump on Samsonov now because he's had a good 2.5 periods. But I don't think the plan for Toronto is to run Martin Jones into the ground. So if they do have a backup that could do something, then maybe they can like play him a little more.
I don't
Like
know.
I just think I think it
I
hurts
think
Jones a little bit that Samsonov isn't blowing up.
yeah, for sure. And I don't think Toronto's like plan is to run Martin Jones into the ground, but I think the goal for Toronto is to like be competitive every night and not let their goalie sink them. And so that might
Sure.
like it's crazy to say that like Martin Jones could be the guy that they choose as a result. Like I don't think they care how often he plays if Samsonov can't, play at the NHL
Well,
level.
exactly.
I found it really interesting that, the update as of last night for the Toronto crease situation was it's not going to be Jones on Sunday, starter TBA. It's
Yeah, I
like,
guess
was
they
it
were
going to be
maybe going to call
Samsonov
Hilbedy
or
back up.
Hildeby?
Yeah,
Yeah. So, like, even that tells me that this team is not ready to recommit to Samsonov. Like, they know better. I think Samsonov is out of chances unless he plays lights out, which, like you said, tonight he's not so far. So,
let's see if they win.
I think the net still belongs to Martin Jones, Elon.
Yeah, maybe by the time we're done this, we'll get a final result here. Though I will also mention with Toronto, whole new lines today. They weren't happy with how things went yesterday. So yeah, today they're rolling with Pontus Holmberg on the top line with Matthews and Nylander. And Mr. Holmberg scored himself a goal to start the game 32 seconds in. I guess I got to ask you, Brian, who the heck is Pontus Holmberg?
He's on
I guess
a
it's not even he's been around a little while, I guess, but like, who is he?
he's on a bit of a run. Have you noticed? He's got
No?
like with the goal tonight, 4 points in his last 5 games,
Oh, so he
nine
earned that
shots.
promotion. Yeah.
Not a big shoot. Yeah, maybe he earned the promotion after playing like 10 minutes a night on average over his last 5 games and generally plays less than 10 minutes a night. But Pontus Holmberg out of Sweden, he was a sixth round pick of the Leafs back in 2018. He's 24 years old with the Marlies this season, 10 points in 11 games. With the Marlies last season, 22 points in 38 games. So either he got better this year or he was really lucky. Not sure which. But we'll see it. Like, obviously, has had some offensive success in the minors, has had very limited opportunity in the NHL this season, but now this is his first opportunity and he's doing well with it. So, Elon, I'm curious. Like I'm intrigued. The other guy in a good position tonight in the depth chart is Max Domi playing alongside Marner and Bertuzzi. And well, I guess that's like a decent position to be. The Leafs lines are weird tonight. Holy cow. But like Max Domi, every time I sort by percent owned when I'm looking through free agency, like Max Domi's up there. Like he was like a mid late round flyer for a lot of people in drafts. And I'm never compelled to add him. So I'll at least just to frame or situate Holmberg, I would prefer him to Domi. I'd prefer him to Yarncroke, who's playing with Tavares. Um, versus Nick Robertson, also playing with Tavares tonight. I'll take him over Robertson. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I'll say Holmberg is a reasonably attractive streamer on Toronto until he's back down to the fourth line next game. Right? Keep an eye on
Yeah,
the lines.
I mean, I guess you could also try to compare him to Bertuzzi, right? Bertuzzi's been nothing special. He has an assist today, but he's like, less than half point per game. So I think maybe I would try Holmberg At least he has upside, right? If he's playing on this line and producing, maybe he can keep it up. But Bertuzzi at least gets power play. But anyways, maybe we're nitpicking. Just an interesting guy. Let's give it a couple games before we're buying too much into Pontus Holmberg. See if the Leafs even win this game. Next up, let's go to. Oh wait, I did have another player I want to ask you about. Timothy Liljegren. It's another kind of guy that we haven't really given much attention to. He's getting decent power play time. He's on a bit of a run. 3 blocks today, for what it's worth. See, do we add him to the list of like nice peripheral with potentially some chance for offense types of
No,
guys?
I don't
No.
think
Okay.
so. Like the peripherals aren't there consistently enough to be worthwhile, and his minutes have kind of gone down in the last 10 games too. So Liljegren, if you're desperate enough and you have an open spot on D, I think he's worth considering, not to totally get rid of him. But if you're saying do we like, I don't know, between Liljegren and Falk, I'll take Justin Falk. What about you?
I'll take Falk as well. Yeah,
Okay.
higher offensive upside. By the way, I guess I'll just shout out quickly. Morgan Riley's having a good season. He's pacing for 68 right now. He's someone who had a really down year last year. An assist today so far. I think you got a nice little deal on Morgan Riley if you drafted him this year because he fell further than I guess he should have. I guess at the time we thought that Klingberg was going
Yeah.
to have the top power play. So it's kind of like with the Hedman situation that we talked about last week, where you kind of you thought you were like taking maybe a risky pick, but turned out to just be a really awesome choice. And yeah, Morgan Riley, I don't see any reason why he'll slow down. No one's taken Lilgren's not taking the top power play from him. Brian, but let's move on now to our next team, Vancouver Canucks. I don't have much to say about Vancouver. They're kind of just doing the same as they generally do, like Tampa. They're just stacking the top line, Miller, Besser, and Pedersen. A lot of goals, except for that last game where they only scored 1 goal, but it was enough to get a 1-0 win against Buffalo. But yeah, it's kind of same old, same old. Here's my question for you. I'm seeing that Pedersen and JT Miller both have similar amounts of points. Miller's got 58 points in 43 games. Pedersen is 57. Miller's actually ahead. I feel like if you ask most people who you want in fantasy, I think everyone would smash like the Pedersen, right? Even in like the cupful where we are a multi-category league, and like Miller does produce more in terms of the hits, but I guess we don't count too much for hits, and Pedersen shoots more. I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think like JT Miller, I still think it's funny how last year, remember at the start of the year, everyone was hating on JT Miller and like the Canucks blew it with that contract. They wouldn't even be able to trade him. He's like one of the top players in the league right now. He's doing incredibly. He's pacing for 111. Who do you think is going to end up with more points this season between Miller and Pedersen?
I will go with Pedersen. Yeah, I'll go with Pedersen only because Miller's on pace for, almost 40 goals. His career high is 32. He's shooting 21%, and I think that's a good deal higher. Like he's generally a 15% shooter, so maybe not I shouldn't say a good deal higher. Like he's a high JT Miller's an effective and efficient converter, but not quite this effective and efficient. And so that's why I'll go Pedersen. His shot rates are actually down too this season, so that's why I'd prefer Pedersen. I think the reason we saw a distance between Pedersen and Miller in drafts was because Miller paced for 84 points last year, right? It was a down year. And really, in his last 3 seasons, Miller has played like a first rounder in one of them. While Pedersen, well, I can say the same, I guess, but Pedersen's on the upswing, right? And since, I think last season he has been a first round pick. So I think Pedersen is entrenched there. And I think Miller is sort of like flirting with being there. We'll see if he can really keep it up. But I'd love to see some more shots from him, especially to balance out the regression we expect to see when he's converting on 21% of his attempts. Or not
Yeah.
attempts, actual shots. I need to be really precise with my language.
You're doing great. And I agree with you. I'll go Patterson. No one's asking this question anyways. Who cares? The Canucks
Okay.
are happy either way. Uh, the Vegas Golden Knights are up next here. Jack Eichel's all of a sudden on the IR. There was like he was out one night and the tweet was just like Cassie said he was sore. So he and the medical team decided to get more tests. And now all of a sudden a tweet today saying like Jack Eichel's been placed on the IR, which officially rules him out for each of the next 2 games. So yikes, I don't know. Hopefully it's just that and he'll be back as soon as he can, like, as soon as the IR stretch is over, which is like a week. So we'll see. That would be obviously bad for Vegas if Eichel is out. In the meantime, yesterday, Vegas lost to Calgary, as most teams do lately. They were rolling, I guess, Marchessault, Barbashev, and Nick Raw or Nicholas Roy or Nicholas Raw took the spot that Eichel's usually in, and then Stonewich, Stevenson, and Dorofayev Like, yeah, it looks a lot less exciting of a team without Eichel in the lineup. I guess you have Stone and Marchessault kind of holding the fort. I guess the last episode was titled "The Last Short Shifts." They called it "Does Vegas Suck?" And I think their conclusion was no. Yesterday, it wasn't that good for them. But I don't know. I don't really know. Like, I'm not gonna like say like should people grab Nicholas Roy, right? I think this is just kind of bad for everyone, and you just hope that Eichel will be back soon because I have Marchessault and Cupful. I'm not happy. Like, this is bad. Like, I definitely would prefer him to be playing with Eichel.
Yeah, I think you've got Marchessault, you've got Stone, and what's interesting to me is still like in Vegas's lot. Like, and sorry, I should finish that thought first. And that's everybody that you want to have. Like that, those are all the forwards in Vegas that are rosterable. And what's crazy to me is that Vegas is still splitting their power plays. They have Stone and Marchessault together, and so you think they'd be power play one. No, no, they're splitting time almost equally. So they're with Chandler Stevenson, Pavel Dorofeev, and the other unit is Barbashev, Amadio, Waugh, and Cotter, which is like, why would those guys get equal time to Stone and Marchessault? I don't know, but that's what the Golden Knights are doing. I think they even experimented with like Stone and Marchessault on different units. It's just not a great situation for anyone in Vegas right now.
Yeah, and we'll see. Like maybe that was just a single game, like one power play. Like, there could be other reasons. So it'll be interesting to see. I would imagine the Stone Marchessault one will get a decent amount more time in the next game. Otherwise, I'd be scratching my head for sure. I'll mention also Alec Martinez is getting power play time now, like second power play, like behind Petrangelo, but still for a guy like he's blocks king. He's doing it again this year, stepping in front of pucks all the time. I don't like he hasn't even missed. He has missed some time, but he's on a run now. Like it's like I don't know. I don't know like predict injuries, but I guess when you have this many blocks, how can you not get hurt at some point? But anyways, yeah, points in two straight games for Alec Martinez. So again, on this line of like defensemen who are getting peripherals and maybe even getting some points now, like I would put Martinez maybe near the top of the list over a lot of the guys we've talked about. Just especially in Cupful, we have 0.5 for a block. I don't know. Getting some points. I don't, you hear what I'm saying? I'm not so excited, but if you need a defenseman, maybe you can do worse if blocks are counted.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Okay, Washington next. Two teams to go. Ovi hurt today and yesterday, so Ovechkin missed the last couple of games. Didn't go well today. They lost 2-1 to the Rangers. Looks like their top line was Strome, Pacioretty, and Oshie. TJ Oshie just came back from his own injury, and yeah, looking pretty good. He's played 3 games now. 3 shots, then 4 shots, and then 7 shots today, and he's scored 2 goals since returning in these 3 games. Top power play. I think at this point, if you can get TJ Oshie, you got it, right? And even when OV comes back, like I feel like Oshie's still going to be on the top power play, and we'll see if he like who he bumps from, like who OV bumps. If it's like Strome or Oshie or Pacioretty, I guess it won't be Strome since someone has to be the center on that line. But yeah, Oshie becomes interesting. I think at this point, I would take Oshie over Pacioretty. I think we should probably check in on because we were talking about Pacioretty when he first came back from his injury, and we hadn't seen like really enough to weigh in. He's like doing okay, like 3 points in his last 4 games, not shooting like classic Pacioretty. TJ Oshie is shooting like Pacioretty usually shoots. So maybe they've body swapped. And yeah, what do you think? I would take Oshie over Pacioretty at this point.
So maybe they bodies. I feel like that's the first body swapping conspiracy we've heard on the show ever.
That
We
episode title.
maybe. Uh, what's the but yeah. Okay. We'll think about it. Um, Oshie had 2 points in 19 games prior to the couple games before he got injured
Yeah.
where he had a point
Needed a
each.
break.
Yeah, well, he was doing okay before the break and doing even better since. I love 2 goals on 11 shots, and shout out to Ashley, my couple opponent this week, who like I should have added Oshie last night. Like we were sort of like I had pretty much lost, but I had really outside chance at making it if I made a couple of the right moves. And when I saw I didn't make a move last night, I should have. And when I saw Ashley grabbed Oshie from right up from under my nose, like I don't know what I was waiting for, and I need a right wing badly. I was like, it's over. I'm done. Like that's it. And I was right. Goal on set like that goal on 7 shots and 3 hits too. And last game 2 hits for Oshie. So getting physical, getting pucks on net, getting goals. Oshie's looking. We'll see if he can keep it up. He's 37 years old. Can you believe that? If TJ Oshie's 37 years old, then we're old too. He's,
I
he's
just turned 41.
he has such a young name, TJ Oshie. So we're at that
Does
we're
he?
at that point in the episode. Would I prefer him to Pacioretty? Yeah, I would because Pacioretty isn't shooting like TJ Oshie. I just want the guy taking shots. And at one point, like that was Anthony Mantha in Washington. It's not that point anymore. At least Pacioretty, by the way, he has 3 points in his last 4 games, and still he's been on the top power play the last 2 games. So we were watching his minutes to see when they'd ramp up, and he'd get his like full healthy ready deployment. Pacioretty's getting that. He is putting up points. I would love to see more shots from him next.
Yeah, and I think when Ovechkin comes back, I would be more worried about Pacioretty losing the top power play than Oshie. But we'll see. It could also be Tom Wilson who just came back. He didn't do anything today.
I feel like
He's actually.
Pacioretty is going to stay. Well, I don't know. I
You
feel like
think?
he's going to stay. I don't know. I guess being on the top power play in Washington doesn't mean like are you likely to score? It's how much can you open up for Alex Ovechkin?
I just think they've had so much success over the years with Oshie there. I don't see why they would
Fair.
like bump him. But yeah, we'll see. Also a net, right? Charlie Lindgren got both games on this back to back. Is that it? Drop Kemper? Like Lindgren also played well today. Like it's not his fault that they lost 2-1. So maybe he's the starter now. At the very least, I'd say it's like a 50-50. Like I'd be not very interested. Like I'd prefer Carter Hart to Kemper at this point for what it's worth. When I was like
Yeah.
saying before, I'm worried about Hart losing stars. I'm more worried about Kemper.
I have Kemper and Cupful, and I think I like Lindgren playing back to back. Like I'm half wondering if there was like something we didn't know, like Kemper just like wasn't quite feeling ready because this seemed to come out of nowhere that Lindgren was starting again. And it's rare, even in this scenario where Washington goalie has had a good game on a back to back this season, they still haven't started the next game too. So yeah, like I'm with you, Elon, 50-50. Hart is on the better team. Hart has a better chance at getting a greater share of the starts as well compared to Kemper. Like I said, I have Kemper and Cupful, and I have plenty of guys to drop before him. But if I had to drop him today, I would without too much regret.
Okay, we end Brian in Winnipeg. How much time do we have left on the timer? We're doing so well, right?
I'm sorry we're out of time, Winnipeg fans, but stay tuned for. No, I'm kidding. We have 4 minutes.
Okay, well, hopefully good news. The winning streak ended. They got shut out yesterday, like we talked about earlier, but not fully representative of the team because Mark Scheifele was out. I'm seeing some tweets like Murata Tesh tweeted. Murata Tesh has Jerry Seinfeld as his Twitter icon right now, and it's like from the episode where he got that bad haircut. And so, I don't know. It's like a really funny picture. I like it. Anyway, good job, Murat. But he's been on the show a few times talking about the Jets. But anyway, he tweeted like Shifley was day to day, not even ruled out for yesterday's game. So he ended up not playing, but hopefully that means it's not too serious. And then they can get back to rolling. That'll obviously be good for Ehlers, I guess, at some point, kind of like what we've been talking about with Colorado, with Lehkonen coming back soon, like Kyle Connor's coming back soon. Kyle Connor, unlike Lehkonen, I'm very confident takes, top line, top power play. So we'll see what happens because, like, before actually Connor got injured, Ehlers was looking good on that top line with Shifley and Connor, and then it was Velarde who took over. So I'd be more worried about Velarde, but then the power plays where maybe Ehlers loses out. So I'm not to make this all Ehlers centric. He's the one I have on my couple team, but we'll see. That'll be interesting, but that's not so soon. Like Connor's just been skating. In the meantime, not too much to say, right? It's like you want Velarde, Shifley, Ehlers, and everyone else is just kind of okay. And the main thing, I guess, with Winnipeg is they just suppress goals so well. Like Hellebuck's like probably going to win the Vezina at this point. Brossois, every time he plays, is an incredible spot start. I think Brossois is really earning himself a decent contract next season. He's going to be a UFA. I think some team like I think this is like the kind of guy Ottawa should. I mean, they don't have the cap space anymore. They don't have a spot. But like if they could get him for like 3 mil for a couple years, I mean, don't give him a Corpusalo contract. But I think Brossois is proving. And last year he had a good run in Vegas before getting hurt. I think he's proving that he's deserving of a bigger job next year. So it'll be fun to see what happens.
Yeah, Brossoit has been great when he's played, and I don't know if you remember, and like I don't know if this is like a brag or not. I don't think it is. It might be the opposite. But last year, like I thought Brossoit would be the Vegas starter, right? Remember when it was like that three-headed they had Hill, who was nobody, right? Like his career in my mind was basically over, or at least like for sure career backup. They had Logan Thompson, who had very little experience to track record, and they had Brossoit. And I was like, yeah, I think Brossoit is gonna be the best goalie of them all because he has a good career track record. And That didn't happen. In fact, Brossoit in Vegas, well, a couple seasons ago didn't look great. Last season he looked good, but he didn't stay healthy long enough. But now Brossoit does have like a pretty steady NHL. Like in 10 years, he's been in the league 10 years. He's played 128 games. He's got a 909 save percentage, 55% quality starts. And that does look like someone who, hey, maybe he does have a future as a goalie, like as a number one. That future's got to come soon. He's going to turn 31 in March. Although sometimes we see goalies, around this time in their careers, get a chance and do well. So we'll see if the same can happen for Brossoit. But for in the meantime, he's playing on a real like Winnipeg is a very good team, right? We've already mentioned this, and when he's starting, you could benefit from having him on your roster.
You know what I think would be a fun goalie tandem next year that I think would do well? Give me a team going with Brossoit and Lankinen as their two goalies. I think that'll go
I
right.
knew
Lankinen's doing well,
Lankinen had to
Brian.
be involved. I'm not saying he's not. I just was like, there's a lot of guys. You could have gone anywhere with that.
Yeah, but I had to pick UFAs. I had to
Oh,
go with
okay.
UFA backup UFAs, who I think would be. I feel it's like both of them could challenge
Right.
each other for stars. I think it would be a lot of fun.
Well,
I
Elon,
think it would be good.
if it weren't for Joseph Wall, I'd say that you found Toronto's next two goalies. Like,
Yeah.
but this is
Are there
it, right?
any?
Like
Yeah.
Vanacek Samsonov or Matt Murray Samsonov or Vanacek. Who was Schmid? I don't know. Like, yes, you could spend a little on each of Lankinen and Brossoit and see who comes out on top. Yeah, why not?
I guess there's no teams actually. I'm looking like through. Like I don't think there's any teams for next year that have like potential to have two new goalies. Like I think every team has at least one goalie locked. Oh, I guess San Jose maybe. I don't know what's Blackwood's contract. Anyways, whatever. All right, Brian, we did it. We made it through all 32 teams with a little bit of time to spare. This has been so much fun. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the show. Like Brian said at the end of the last. Hopefully we didn't stress anyone out too much. I think we were a bit more laid back here in part two, and I had a great time. So thanks everyone for checking us out. If you like the podcast, we'd love to hear from you. Tweet at us at Keeping Carlson. If you're a patron, let's chat on the Discord. We have KK episode discussion. Let us know what you agree with, what you disagree with. I love talking about the episodes. I feel like we don't talk that much about the episodes. Everyone's already moving on to like the next, you got to start worrying about whatever your decisions for tomorrow. But, you know, whatever. We do this for you. Hope you liked it. A 5-star review on Apple Podcasts really helps us out. Free for you to do a subscription on wherever you get your podcasts to auto download those episodes. Obviously, we would appreciate that, but I guess that's enough for me. Did I mention becoming a patron? KeepingCarlson.com/patron. I think it's a pretty good deal. $5 a month. You could quit anytime. Join our awesome community. Get show notes. We do a patron cast. We try our best to make it worth your while. And thanks, of course, to the existing patrons. You are the best. Like Brian said at the top, we really depend on you to make this worth our while, I guess. Maybe now that we're going to have these political ads, everything's going to change. But Brian, with that, let's cue the outro music. And then why don't you go ahead and read us the credits?
Also, if you're a political entity and you want to advertise, come talk
Oh,
to us
direct.
directly. Yeah.
Let's do a direct ad and I'll do the read. I'm like, are you sick of your government not like protecting you from blah, blah, blah? Like,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That'd be great.
that would be
I
pretty
think. I
fun.
don't know. I'm not
No, I
sure.
wouldn't. Yeah. Anyways,
Okay.
Brian, did I cue? Okay, let's now cue the outro music.
Okay. This episode of the Keeping Carlson Fantasy Hockey Podcast was oh my gosh, presented by Dabra Hockey. Want I just do it again? I'll just do it again. This episode of the Keeping Carlson Fantasy Hockey Podcast was presented by Dabra Hockey and powered by our patrons, including our growing list of super supporters. We've got 21 this season. That's amazing.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Like we had like 3 or 4 for a while and then like 8 and it's exploded lately. So thank you really to Ryan, Lucas, Top Cheese, Roman, Don, Michael, Jordan, Patrick, Aaron, Philip, Ivan, Sammy, Andrea, Zach, Tom, Ryan, David, Max, former couple ultimate champion, Dusty, I was going to say is Dusty, Ricard, and Patty. Thank you all for your super patronage, and thank you to all our patrons very much who have helped us stay away from political ads just this long.
Did you know, Brian, that the reason why Dustin is a super patron is because he tagged me in a chat that he thought I wasn't in or paying attention to. And he was like, if Elon responds to this in 24 hours, then I'll double my Patreon. And I did.
Did he tag? Did you get tagged?
I got tagged. It was in like a Facebook message. But
Oh,
anyway, thanks, Dustin. And
that's
then he actually, I
awesome.
think, tagged you and said, if you tag, he'll double it again. But you didn't
Oh
respond.
crap! Damn.
You blew it, Brian. And I
Uh,
promised I wouldn't message you. I should have. But I had to be, if I
do you
don't
know
have my
the
word, what
irony
do
is
I
I'm
have?
pretty sure I opened that chat earlier today, randomly, for the first time in months.
You were tagged. Why didn't you get a push notification?
I think I don't have it on my phone.
Well, that's why you suck. That's why you
Thank
don't
you
have
to
$20.
thank you to the rest of the people on our team who keep this machine going and definitely do not suck, including Kevin Haber, our Cupful coordinator, Shams and Elon for GameDayTweets.com, Shams, Jeremy, and Lewis and Derek making a great appearance on Short Shifts recently. Way to go! Happy to have Derek in the fold. You can follow Short Shifts on X, Twitter. Oh, I said it at Short Shifts KK. Logo art by BrandonWeeb.com. Outro music by Pat Roach. This episode was researched with help from Dobber Hockey, Frozen Tools, Dobber Prospects, Natural Stat Trick, Evolving Hockey, Cap Friendly, The Athletic, HockeyGoldies.org, Hockey Reference, Hockey Viz, Hockey Database, Elite Prospects, and Yahoo.
Great job, Brian. Always fun doing a little gallop through the league with you. Looking forward to, maybe we won't do the exact same thing, but we'll definitely do something next week and looking forward to it. What should we all do while we wait for that glorious episode?
Do what you can to make sure that fantasy hockey is for everyone. And also let us know if you find any fantasy hockey products for the PWHL.
Why did I say glorious episode? That was stupid.
Why'd you say gallop?
I don't know. I was trying to think of words. I don't. Once you gave me a compliment for my vocabulary, and I think I really let you down today. I couldn't remember even the word event earlier, so that's where my head's at. Thanks everyone. Thanks for watching live. Appreciate you. See ya. Bye,
Thanks,
Brian.
chat. Bye, everybody.
Excited to see this fast upload speed today.
Oh, so I don't have it.
Oh
It's
wow.
getting there was an installation issue, so it's getting fixed tomorrow.
Okay. So I'll wait the 20
Yeah.
minutes. I don't mind. All right. See you,
Yeah.
pal.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.